Hello, everybody. We are live. I'm going to go straight to the chat. And then I'm going to get into updates in just a second. And I am working from my laptop. So this is a bit weird for me. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay. Bonnie became a new member on YouTube. Awesome, Bonnie. And I have been emailing Bonnie and trying to keep in touch with Bonnie because she's in Clearwater. And I know that Hurricane Milton is hitting right now, even until tomorrow. John Marciano, hello. Let me know if you guys can hear me good. Becky, hi Ruby, glad to hear you're safe. Yep, we are doing good. Lucy, hi Lucy. Hi Keith, Thrifty. That was me in the chat. If you see the StreamYard link from Vern, that's actually me posting it so people can join. Shaq, hello. Oh my god, guys. Please, I'm gagging. Okay, I don't have a wig. I left all my wigs, and you would think that that would be the first thing I get, right? Because I was gonna bring my electronics. The show must go on, yada yada, right? And I didn't bring any of my wigs. So I am gagging over my widow's peak and my hair. So this is disgusting for me. But thank you, Keith. Thrifty, yes, prayers for Florida. Yes. Thank you, Thrifty. Thank you, Becky. Lucy says, oh no, did Milton take the red wig? I am cringing right now. I'm cringing. I don't have my wig. I don't have the political energy. I don't have my political hat on right now, but we're going to get into it. Thanks, Thrifty. Hi, Alora. Thank you for the comment. Okay, good. Sound is good. JG says, where's the wig? The wig might get flooded. Might get flooded in and I'll probably have to buy new wigs. I don't know. Hopefully, I am praying that that I will have a home to go back to in a few days. We will see. I don't know. But I left it hanging in my closet. Hi, Rack. Thanks, Alora. Hi, Jay. Jay, you look great. Thank you, guys. Okay, guys, so the link should be on the top of my chat if anybody wants to join. We're gonna get right into it. Okay, hold on. I emailed Tony a link. If anybody hears my background, just let me know. I am in a kitchen table in my dad's house. I am coming live to you out of West Palm Beach. So we had to evacuate. And so that is where I am at right now. Let me see if I can log into Discord really quickly and send a link. I should have done this before. I always do this every single week. Okay, there we go. Tony. I think she was going to be joining tonight. But everybody is welcome to join. Anybody can click that link and join me. And I've been trying to keep up with all of my texts and messages. We've been getting a lot of messages. Hi, Wild. How's it going, everybody? Let me know in the chat how you guys are doing while I send this text to Tony so that she can join. I haven't seen her since, we left. We had to evacuate. Okay. Keith says, stay dry. Yes, we will. It hasn't even started raining and we left before the rain even started. So I have not experienced any rain yet. It was kind of like the calm before the storm. Very silent, beautiful, no wind, no nothing, just no noise at all. It was just really weird, like a really weird silence because everybody was not there. Weird, right? Like a ghost town. Um, let's see. Jay says you're quite the YouTube trooper. The show must go on. I literally told that to Jimmy because he called me the other day. Oh, Lucy's here. Hi, Lucy. Just gotta unmute yourself.
Yeah, I have to unmute myself. I just want to jump on and say hi and help you out. It's I can't even imagine how nerve-wracking it must be, but you're doing a great job.
Thanks, Lucy. Thanks for joining. Yeah, it was really. I was having anxiety. When did we leave? We left yesterday, so the day before yesterday, I was having really heavy anxiety, like my chest. I couldn't breathe all the way in, and every time I tried to breathe all the way in, I would start coughing, and I'm like, "What the heck is going on?" So yeah, I had a lot of anxiety, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna pack whatever is essential and just leave with whatever we can pack in the car. If there's a surge or whatever, if there's flooding, then everything else will just have to, we'll just deal with it later. That kind of feeling of not putting so much worry on material things. And I know it sounds so cringy, but that's literally what we grew up to do, right?
Yeah,
We grew up
yeah,
to have emergency go bags and how to not care about material things and things like that. So it was really weird to put myself back in that mentality of like, okay, what do I gotta do? What's necessary and that kind of stuff.
yeah. I mean, well, the premise of being prepared for an emergency is not inherently a bad idea. But if it becomes your entire identity and you shun your family because they won't carry go bags too, that's when it becomes a problem, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But you know what's the crazy part? Is that because I deprogrammed so much, I did away with that. I didn't have no bags. I didn't have no emergency stuff. I was like, I'm done with that. So I never prepared, like had anything prepared. So I was running around all day trying to pack, I'm trying to think, okay, what do we need? We need batteries. We need this. We need that. And that same day that I was cleaning and cooking, because I was trying to cook all the food before we leave because it'll
There
go
you
bad.
go. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jimmy called me and he's like, "So what are you planning on doing?" I'm like, "I don't know, Jimmy. Like I'm having an anxiety attack. It's like you're running in circles, even though you need to leave. Your anxiety sometimes just doesn't let you do things, like get things
Yeah.
done."
Yeah. Yeah. That's the truth. And yeah, and that, I mean, this is the reason why there are drills. That's why we do fire drills for kids, because in the moment when things are happening and we're scared and there's lots of things, lots of information coming at us. It is hard to make a a plan and stick to the plan because you have all these external things breaking in and trying to give you direction, and it can be confusing. But you did a good job. You got everybody out, and are the kids having fun, like hanging out at Grandpa's house? What do they call him?
Yeah, they call him grandpa. So that's the thing. It turned into like a hurricane mini vacation because they never get to come over here since it's so far away. That's like a 3 hour drive. So we turned it into a trip, road trip. Let's pack up the car, let's go. But I could tell they also had anxiety. They just didn't know how to express it. So they would just run back. They would pace, but like they were running all over the place. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to assign each person to help me pack something. So I had them collecting things, collect this, collect that, and they would bring it to me. So that was the only good thing is that the cleaning helps with your anxiety. Organizing helps with anxiety. So I was organizing, I was cleaning, I was cooking, I was doing everything. And then Jimmy was the last person to like really call me and be like, "Are you leaving? Like, what are you doing?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Yes, yes, yes. I need to leave. Yes." Um,
Yeah.
yeah. once it turned into a category 5, which I've never dealt with before, like I've never experienced that, I was like, okay, then we need to leave tonight. Do not wait until Tuesday because the rain is going to start. People are going to get chaotic. They're going to start panicking. So we left Monday evening at 11:30 at night and we drove all night and we got here like at 4 a.m. And then we just waited for my dad to wake up and then we came in the house and we just it's like a regular day. We took a nap, then we started doing regular things, go shopping, go back into some type of normal. Like you want to go back to a routine and not freak out too much because I'm like, oh, is it raining? Is our house still there? Or like your
Mhm.
anxiety wants to bring you back there, but I'm like trying to take my mind off of it. So I'm like, the good thing is I have a stream. So I'm going to keep the show on. I'm going to take my mind off of everything and continue what we were supposed to talk about tonight, which I had pre planned all of these, like subjects. So I'm like, okay, let me just focus on the banking system and the fiat money and like I'm trying to take my mind off of things.
Yeah, yeah, you're doing a good job. Doing a good job.
Yes. Hello to everybody in the chats. The link should be at the top if anybody wants to join. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know too much about this subject, so that's why I invite anybody who does know about this subject. This is going to be purely educational for me because I'm still learning. I mean, I know I always say this, but with this particular subject, I don't know too much because I haven't really done my research about like currency, money. The fiat system is something brand new. Like that's brand new to me as well. The debt, things like that. So, do you have any? Well, I can ask you, Lucy, since you're here. Do you have any like opinions about that, or any information that you already know that you want to share?
Well, there's a lot of stuff in what you said. Um, what kind of information were you thinking about researching specifically? I do have a background. I was a stockbroker for 12 years, so I am familiar with it. I've passed the Series 7 and had to
Mm-hmm.
continue to take continuing education for several years after that. I'm familiar with how our markets work. That's why I can safely say it's just legalized gambling, is what it is.
Mm,
And so a lot of our economy is based on this betting system. Think about that. If we had our whole economy based off of greyhound betting, how insane would that be? But these people it's even more radical than that. They're betting on who loses in
mm-hmm.
some of these schemes that we have seen recently. For instance, have you heard some of the schemes come to mind first for me? Like Bernie Madoff. Do you remember hearing that name?
Oh yeah, I think they made a movie about him.
Exactly. So, like, there's several famous people that you could start researching just to see what kind of information is out there about those people, what they did, what they got away with, and how I mean, they got away with it because it's legal. Everybody shames them for it now, but it's like he got away with it because he was taking people's money because people believed him because
Mm-hmm.
he showed them what he was doing and it was legal just because it was unethical. At the time,
Right.
we didn't have any laws against it. So, yeah, certainly what he was doing was unethical, but it wasn't illegal. And yeah, it worked. The thing is, so many people got away with making money off of what he was doing. He wasn't the only one that was benefiting from it. And so
Mm-hmm.
the thing that we need to remember in this day and age, post Me Too, is when people are benefiting from something, they're less likely to tell on the system if they see something that is wrong, or if they see an impropriety, right? Case in point, did he get away with what he was doing to people for so long? How many people knew that he was beating his girlfriend for 10 years? He beat her in publicly in front of his friends, in front of his work colleagues, and nobody said a thing. You know why? Because they were all benefiting from what he was doing. Well, that's exactly what happens in our banking system. If if somebody's making a profit, they're not going to say anything. So the
Hmm.
inclination that we're all supposed to have, which is if you see something, say something, that all goes out the window in a capitalist society, especially a late stage capitalist society when people are worried about their profit margin. Over.
Hmm.
Rant
That's
over.
a good point.
So that's what
No,
I think of it.
wow, yeah. Yeah, sometimes I feel like it's a big scam. It's a big circle and you're not in that circle. You know, like that phrase that says like it's a club but you're not in that club. It's kind of like the same thing. It's kind of like the big players, the big people who play a monopoly. You know, the people who have enough money to play the game, not you. You're the renter. You're the person who just rents the place. You never own anything.
Right. And for a long time, that type of mentality worked with the size of economy that we had in the early 1900s. It worked, but it doesn't work anymore because the majority of our wealth has now filtered upwards.
Hmm.
What's the latest stats? The top 2% of our of the people in our country own over 50% of the wealth. Think about that.
Exactly. Ugh, that really gets me.
Yeah,
Um,
there's like
especially
10 or 15 people that own
mm-hmm.
50% of the capital, and you and I just have we don't even have a slice. We don't even have a slice.
Yeah, yeah, you're telling the truth right now. It kind of sucks because then I also like I spill into the what do you call it? Like the ideology or maybe like when they say taxation is theft, like that phrase is pretty popular. I feel
Mhm.
like that. Like I always say, I'm anti-Fed. I'm anti, you know, a lot of things. I want small government, etc. But that's exactly how I feel about all this when it comes to tax. Because they're taxing us, why are they taxing us if they could just print money? And you know,
Right,
and the other way around, why are they printing money if they're taxing us? It's like it should be either or, not both. And they're still taxing us, and if you don't pay your tax, then you go to jail. Like what? Like I don't know, that kind of gets me.
right. So the thing that I know that you heard this at the last free and equal debate when
Hmm.
the constitutionalist guy, Victor, was talking about he was railing against the Federal Reserve. And so the reason why I brought up the stock market is because of what Victor was talking about, and also Chase was talking about it too, libertarian, is that
Hmm.
it's all tied back to the Federal Reserve and how the Federal Reserve is used to balance the stock market. And so our government dips its toes in the market by controlling it, right? And who is ultimately benefiting from that? It's not actually our government. It's the
Hmm.
corporations who are controlling the government, right? The ones like it's actually illegal for our government to participate in the stock market, but because like people like Nancy Pelosi and okay, I see you shaking your head, so you know what I'm talking about. The people who are running our government, the senators, the people who are making over $250,000 a year just to sit in the seat, and they can barely bring themselves to show up to work. They are also participating in this stock market, this legalized gambling, and they're the ones who are being influenced by the things that they are invested in, and that's what moves our market around. And that's the part that's illegal. They're not supposed to be doing it, and yet they are. Does that make sense?
That's the thing. Yeah, because they should, and I assumed it was illegal because I'm like, why don't they already have a law or a bill that says members of government or members of Congress cannot be engaging in or the whole stock stuff because they're making millions of dollars with insider trading. Okay, insider trade. That should be illegal already, is it not?
It's Yes, it is actually illegal, but it takes a really long time to prove that someone was doing that.
Okay. Okay.
And it
Okay, yeah,
takes a
that.
lot of whistleblowers to come forward too. And if the people who are in power have a lot of money, they can
Mhm.
keep people quiet, right? They can keep the naysayers quiet for a while.
Mhm. Okay, yeah. I think that's where a lot of corruption stems from. And that's why a lot of people say on the internet, like, follow the money. Like, that's another phrase that I hear on Twitter and stuff like that. And it's true. Every single time you go down a rabbit hole of, if it's a conspiracy or corruption or whatever it is, every single time, everything revolves around money. And
Yes.
that's where all the corruption starts and ends. And it's disgusting because that money, you see, that's what gets me. It's like if you have all the money in the world and money doesn't like do anything to you anymore, what are you going to move on to next? What's the next big thing? You're just going to continue doing illegal stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And nobody's doing anything about it. But if people, like you said, whistleblowers, or they want to call people conspiracy theorists and things like that for saying about the child trafficking or human trafficking or like other things that I see like on the internet, I'm like, so why do you believe like regular corruption, but you don't believe that these people are also capable of you literally financing trafficking or any other theory that's out there? I believe it all. I'm gonna be honest. I believe it all because I distrust the government so much that at this point I like I tell people all the time, I believe it. I believe that they would do something like that. I believe it because I don't even trust them in the little things. Why do I trust them in the big things? Why am I still paying taxes?
Yeah, well, our taxes are supposed to be used for you and me. It's supposed to be, so I don't want to jump on a soapbox or anything, but in my mind, like when I pay my taxes, I want my roads to be paved, I want children to be educated, I want,
Hmm.
the signal lights to work. I want the fire trucks to show up if my neighbor's house starts to burn down. Those are the kind of things that I expect simply because I grew up in a society that provided those things for me. So I feel entitled to those things, right?
Hmm.
Um, the Other countries have been able to give their citizens things like universal health care also with those taxes,
Hmm.
um, by taxing their individual their sorry, I'm stuttering now because I wasn't prepared to talk about this, but by raising taxes, they've also been able to do the things that we can do, like pave
Hmm.
the roads, build bridges, build the dams, provide the infrastructure. But they've also been able to provide additional things that we don't have in this country. And
Hmm.
the reason why we can't have those things in our country is because of the greed that's in our government. Our government
Hmm.
has this underlying belief system. somehow on Sunday we got talking about politics, even though it's supposed to be just about XJW healing. And we
Mm-hmm.
have on Sunday sometimes we have people from other countries come in and talk to us, which is a really nice perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
some of the people were asking, well, how come Americans just don't start like having co-ops and just go off and do your own thing if it's so hard to deal with the politics in the city? And I made a quick comment. I'm like, that's all well and good. And there are co-ops here in the US. However, the American attitude is that if a co-op is working, somebody's going to come along and try to figure out how to profit off of it. We don't actually, as Americans, I feel, in my humble opinion, I don't think Americans have a culture of just helping our neighbors just for the sake of helping our neighbors. I think we have this deep-seated desire to just make a profit off of everything that we do, and it's not good enough unless we're making a profit. And that's like the only measure of success we have. We don't have anything that measures, um, I think we can measure on life expectancy, but like quality of life, do we really have a good hold on what that means for American people? I don't know. Am I just rambling at this point, or am I making any sense?
No, yeah, that's exactly right. I totally agree with that, and that's exactly what like Vern used to tell me when in previous streams he was like, love your neighbor, and why would you want a wall on the border? Why wouldn't you want them to come here or whatever? Like he had those questions in the very early beginning, and I had that mind frame like this is mine, this is yours, a very very isolationist or separatist ideology. And I think that, like you said before, all of these things happen under capitalism. And I think that's the truth. Everybody wants to capitalize on everything, like you just said, and they want to
Yeah,
make a profit from it.
yeah.
But at the same time, I do agree with capitalism. And give me 1 second.
Well, if it was fair, right now the capitalism that we have is being controlled by corporations. Personally, I think when we made corporations a a individual entity, what back in the 80s, that's when we kind of lost control of that because now like really bad men can hide behind a corporation and steal all of their employees' retirement funds.
Exactly.
And then they can say, oh, the corporation did it, it wasn't me. Anyways, I'm going to take my $38 million and I'm going to go to Fiji. You know,
Yeah.
that's not good capitalism. That's not the thing that you or I or anybody needs in our society. Capitalism, being able to create and participate in an open market when it's fair and equitable would be a nice thing to do, but we no longer have that anymore. It's very much tipped in the balance of the big guy, and whoever has the most expensive lawyers wins, whether he's right or wrong. And I don't know how do we recover from something like that? How do we pull it back without bloodshed? Basically, is what I'm questioning myself.
Yes, exactly. You hit it right on the nail because this is exactly what I tell Jimmy all the time. I say, so if we are run by these corporations, these elites, these people who have money that they don't even know how to spend it, is so much money.
Yeah.
They are buying out the politicians, right? Like we talk about this on the streams all the time. They lobby politicians, they buy them out, and then the politician has to do what they say. So they're basically being controlled. I say, well, how is that?
Yes.
Why is that even allowed to happen here? So you have all these
Because
corporations. Go ahead, Lucy.
Well, it happens because citizens haven't been able to get a citizens initiative in to one, make sure that people who were previously in Congress or soon to be in Congress don't work for these corporations. Like there are laws, there are citizens initiatives out there to limit not only the time, how many times a senator can stay in office, but also to limit, what's that? Also make sure that they can't have influence. They're not allowed to go to work for these corporations and then turn around and be influential lobbyists because they have a name there. So there,
Hmm.
it's hard to find them, but there are those initiatives out there. Not every state is running them. It just
Hmm.
depends on which state you're in, but that's the problem.
Mm.
The people with the money are able to keep those of us who would vote for those things from finding out about them.
Interesting point. I'm gonna have to look into that another day. I'm gonna have to look more into that. I brought up Jane's comment. She said,
Mhm.
I also heard they want the US to be on a digital dollar like China, give all residents credit cards and iPhone to track all expenses and interests. That's crazy. What how do you think about that? What do you think about that, Lucy? That's crazy.
Right. So, I mean, so part of what she's saying is absolutely true. There is a faction of our economy that is trying to push for digital currency, right? Because if you can, let's say you make point 0.02% off of every transaction. Can you imagine how rich you would be? So of course there's corporations who are in the business of making money off of money. They are pushing for this, of course. Can our economy sustain it?
Mm-mm. No, no, no. I can't. I can't even comprehend it. Like we see these
Right?
concepts in movies. You know, like there's a lot of movies that have this concept of like digital currencies. You know, stuff like the Bitcoin and stuff like that. And people want to use it. And I've heard this phrase before, like social credit. I've heard that phrase before, but I don't know too much about it. But that's basically like, you know, controlling you. They're gonna track all your expenses, like Jane says.
Okay,
If you
so
if
go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say the social credit thing. I don't know if
Hmm.
there's any Star Trek fans in the audience, but there was an Orville. I don't know if some Star Trek people watch
Hmm.
Orville. That was a Seth. Um, anyways, it was a very funny show. It seemed like they were making fun of space travel, but they
Hmm.
actually touched on quite a few social issues as well. And one of them was social credit. And they dropped onto a planet where you had to wear this badge, and if you made someone angry, they could downvote you, and if somebody gave you good service, you were supposed to upvote them. So it was
Yes,
kind of
I
making
saw
fun of
something like
that.
that.
Okay, so that's what social credit is. It's I get to rate you. It's kind of like
Yeah.
Yahoo or Zillow or something. But
Hmm. Hmm.
we all know that in America, people have taken those type of anonymous reviews to a whole nother level. I mean, there's people who've made YouTube careers off of just reading nasty reviews from from those review sites. So Americans take out their frustration on those anonymous sites. I wouldn't necessarily want to interact or have my business rated like that, right? Because
Right.
if one unhappy customer and you are apologizing and handing out coupons for the next 2 weeks because people are going in and
Yeah,
asking,
that's why I don't agree
what
with
did
it. And
you
I
do?
yeah,
So, how do we make that
mhm.
a fair situation? You know, how do we
Right.
do
It's
that?
very hard. It's very hard, which is why I don't think you can regulate these types of things. That's why I like capitalism and free markets. It's just like if it's bad in one place, they will move their business elsewhere. You know, they would boycott with their dollar, and the market will decide basically who's better and what's better. So I do like what we have right now. I think we just have to tweak it and make it a little bit better, like you said before. I want to bring up that comment that you made before about how you said like you don't think like we have a culture of wanting to help one another, and I totally get where you're coming from. And Jimmy's in the chat. Hi, Jimmy. And he says, tell that to the neighbors helping one another in North Carolina. So that's a really good point because when huge things do happen, I do sense the unity that America can definitely have. You know what I mean? Like, is we possess it, but we rarely see it. So I
Yeah.
would counter with that point is that we only see it when something bad happens.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I didn't want to just come out and say Americans only pull together when there's a disaster, but I think you made the point already. That's what's frustrating is when when there's a need, like a local need. I know that people are needed to go to show up at the local PTA to help out, make decisions, clean the school, volunteer, show up to walk the kids across the street or hold a stop sign or whatever, but nobody wants to do those things, but they all want to show up and complain about it when something bad happens. That's the kind of attitude that I have observed because I did raise kids and I did not send them to public school until they were in junior high. I sent them to a charter school. Um, and the it, there's a vast difference between the public school and then another school where parents want to be a part of the kids' education. I'm sure you have experienced that too because you ultimately took your kids and did homeschooling. So, like,
Yeah.
I understand that, it is hard for people. Not everybody can volunteer as much as some people can. Not everybody thinks it's as important, but like, that's been my experience. Does that make sense where
Right.
that sentiment is coming from?
Right, right. That's why I like the freedom that we have here to do things like that because if we don't like what the government offers or we don't like private school or co-op for whatever you want to do, you can just do it yourself. And so it allows us to do that. The type of freedom that we have allows us to do our own thing. Like quite literally, you can unschool your children, which means you don't have to teach them anything. And in some states, that is okay to do. And I didn't even know about those types of things. So that's how free we are in America. We just have to really take our freedom seriously. You know what I mean? Like it's a big responsibility to have the freedom that we have and hopefully continue voting in favor of that freedom because I seriously think that this election is either for freedom or not for freedom. Because if you read in between the lines of what Harris and her website or administration or like her ideals are, does not scream freedom to me. It screams communism. And I mean, I don't want to joke about that, but like, that's just my honest opinion.
Yeah, it's not something to joke about. I agree with you 100%. What the Democrats have been offering for the American people is control from corporations. They're not offering any type of freedom. If they stated in court, the
Mhm.
DNC stated in court, they do not have to listen to their voters because they are a corporation. And then they proved it this year when they appointed Harris as the nominee instead of listening to their voters. So like you anybody who votes for Harris, like you said, they are
Mhm.
most likely voting against their own best interest. And that's unfortunate.
Yes, exactly. You took the words out my brain because that's literally how I feel. I want to bring up Wild's comment. This is a great point. He says, "How well do you think the digital only transactions would have went here in North Carolina when we lost all power and couldn't even buy at grocery stores without cash because debit and credit wouldn't work?" That's
Yeah.
exactly the point that I have always thought in the back of my head. I'm like, if the power goes out and you can't swipe your card, can't do the tap to go pay and stuff like that, even when they came out with the debit cards with the chip in it, that's when I already knew. I was like, no, I was like, I hate when I hate change. We hate change, right? As humans, regardless. But when certain things like this happen and you could see what the government is trying to do, because it's just a slope, it's just a slippery slope of where they want to go. And I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Like, I would just time and time and again be like, I'm not signing up for this. I'm not going to, I don't even have a bank account. Like, that's how much I hate the government and like hate people having my information. I don't have my name on any legal document. I don't even have a bank account. I only function literally through cash or like Cash App. Like, that's the only thing that I do because of how much I hate the control. Like you're saying, they just want to continue controlling us, the tracking, the stuff, and they want to dive into that to that type of stuff too, of giving us a social credit or whatever. And if you don't have the same political beliefs or affiliation or registration or narrative, they're gonna dock you for having a different opinion, or they're gonna give you or maybe tax you more. Like you know what I'm saying? Like, they could do whatever they want because it's they're gonna legalize it and then they're
Yeah,
gonna do it.
yeah, definitely. I can see the potential for harm, and that's really what we're talking about is harm reduction. In a digital society where if a natural disaster was going to knock out your means of communication, a digital society should be prepared for those things, right? So what should have happened immediately after a storm hits is, in addition to bringing in bottled water and portable food and shelf stable things, they should also be bringing in portable digital towers and stuff like that. If that's what is keeping that community safe, then that's a necessary utility, and it should also be added to the list of survival needs, right? Is stable internet. And stable internet, well, stable electricity is,
Mm-hmm.
it has been deemed a necessary utility in our country. And it's something that we do fundamentally believe that everybody has a right to have access to at this point in time. So the internet's right just around the corner as well. I don't, I agree with you 100%. We should not be forcing people to use digital money. I went on a trip. Can I give you just a quick anecdotal story about
Mm-hmm.
digital,
Yeah.
non-digital? I went to visit the redwoods in California a couple years ago, and there was a little mini mart just outside the national forest where he did not accept any digital currency. It was cash only.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. There are still those people out there running businesses with cash only. That's how they believe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it is a thing.
Yes, and we have Jimmy. Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, good evening, Ruby. Good evening, Lucy.
Good
Hey.
evening, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm good. How are y'all doing?
Good. I have one question though, because if we are being taxed, right, like Lucy said, to pave the roads, to do the schools, to fund the things that we say, yes, I have a right to this, right? Then we're paying taxes, but it sometimes it doesn't get done. Sometimes those taxes are used for illegal aliens. Sometimes those taxes are used for public education that are literally indoctrination camps, in my opinion. So when you don't want to be a part of that world, figure of speech, and you want to do it for yourself, then why should I continue paying taxes? Why can't I just do it myself and fund it myself, but paying less taxes?
Oh, you may touch on that for a second.
Yeah, like
Give,
if
give you a
I don't
little,
want,
give you a little
yeah,
history.
yeah, go ahead.
All right. Before 1913, how was our roads paid for? How was their police? How was their fire people?
They
Um,
had a town sheriff, right?
how all these necessary things that people say, oh well, we have to pay taxes because we need this, this, and this. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
how did the country operate before 1913 without it?
Mm-hmm.
The Constitution gives limits on what the federal government can spend money on. They're responsible for keeping the country safe, closed borders. There's several different things that they are allowed to do. But however, when 1913 happened and the creation of the Federal Reserve, that's when we all became debt slaves.
Mm-hmm.
And that progressive income tax was an unconstitutional thing. It was totally unconstitutional. And it also started out to where it was going to be just for a certain income bracket, that those people that were making a lot of money, those would be taxed for a little while. It was not supposed to go on and on and on. But what the federal government does is they put something out there and they say, oh well, it's only going to tax these certain people, and then 5-10 years later down the road, oh well, we're going to tax these people now.
Mm-hmm.
To the point to where they eventually nudge everybody into paying these unconstitutional income taxes. Because before 1913, the United States citizen kept all the money that they made.
I agree with that. I want to go back to that.
So there was no income tax. So now you got to wonder, okay, well, why did that happen? Well, that's when, it goes back to what I said before about the Act of 1871, to where we came off the original Constitution and the bankers and everybody turned us into a corporation. And we know what corporations do. We've talked about it. They like to make money. And how do they do it? Off the backs of the people, because they don't give a crap about us.
Okay, but isn't that still a theory, or is that something that you can prove?
Oh, I can prove that.
Okay.
Everything I just said, I can prove.
Okay, I'm interested in that. I'm interested in learning more about that, because I still am doing like fourth grade history, like when it comes to that.
Right.
And we went over the chapter of how the 13 colonies had 13 different currencies, like 13 different types of dollars or papers that they would trade with. And so the textbook says the reasoning for having a central, or like having a $1 for everybody to trade in, would make it easier for people to all trade in, because this one wasn't worth the same as this one, and etc. So is that somewhat correct, or is that just the psyop to make you believe in having a central banking system?
Well, first off, to answer that question, what is the goal of a central bank system?
I don't know. Maybe I mean, I would assume maybe like to keep track of the trade and the economics that is in that, the flow that's happening in that country.
Ultimate control.
Control. Okay, yeah. I was thinking about that.
That's the simple answer. The reason they wanted a central bank is for control. And the United States, we've had 3 central banks in this country. We had the first one that started out in the first 10 years of our country, from 1787 to like 1797. There was like a 10-year charter, but that was done away with. Then the bankers realized, oh, well, we can make some money. So they put it back into place right after the War of 1812. And Andrew Jackson said, no, we don't need to be giving these people the money. And he defeated and kicked out the second central bank. This is why your mainstream media doesn't look too fondly onto Andrew Jackson, because they don't like the fact that he went against the system and kicked the central bank out. Well, so now you look from about 1824 to the late 1880s, and that's when the bankers started getting their fingers back into our government. And then that's when they created the third central bank with the Federal Reserve. Because what folks don't realize, and so many people don't understand this, is there's nothing federal about the Federal Reserve.
Yes, it's like a separate entity, right? And completely.
It is a private bank.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
It has nothing to do with being federal. So you had a private bank push through a law that was unconstitutional. A bank can't do that. But they somehow, of course, like what Lucy said earlier, they buy off politicians. They do that stuff. And that's
to
why
make it legal.
Yeah. Well, they try to make it legal, but yeah, and so in the central bank, and that's what Trump has been fighting. Whether you like him or not, I don't care. But Trump is fighting to get rid of the central bank, the Federal Reserve.
Okay, hold on. Pause. Question number 1.
Okay.
On the top of your head, do you know from the beginning of the first banking to the last to what we have now, do you know who started it? Who they are?
The Bank of England.
Okay.
Which is ran by none other than the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. Mainly the Rothschilds. Okay. Because if you look at the history of the Rothschilds, I don't know if people even know this. You had the one guy back in the late 1700s. He actually had five boys, and he raised them all up and put them in different countries. One in the U.S., one in England, one in France, one in Germany, and they started creating their central bank system, the Bank of England. And that's how they became so powerful, and that's how they infiltrated all these other countries, not just the United States.
Right. Okay. Question from the comment. John C. Mitchell Jr. is asking you, so how did the roads get built before 1914? You asked the question, but did you answer it for us?
Well, they had roads. They built roads. If you look at the way the taxes are supposed to be done, they're supposed to be just a sales tax on goods, new goods. And then that money goes into taking care of the road. And then you have your, let's look at it this way. Tell me if this makes sense. All right. So you're going to tax me, and I'll circle back to that. But you're going to tax me, the county's going to tax me, and I got to give my tax money to the county. Then the county has to go and give it to the federal government. But now the county needs a new school built. So what do they have to do? They have to go back to the federal government and apply for the money that they gave them. And the federal government decides whether or not you're going to be approved for that school. Why not the county just keep the money?
Exactly. And fast track the projects that they need to do because they would already have the money to do so. They don't have to ask anybody.
And that's how stuff was taken care of before 1913. The money stayed in the communities. But because the bankers want that control, that's why everything was centralized.
Okay. Well, I'm going to invite John if you want to join, because he is being a keyboard warrior right now and trying to have like comeback questions. If you want to join, the link should be in the chat and you can talk to Jimmy directly if you have any more questions. But I'm going to move on. I think that exactly what you just described is like they are the middlemen between states and the federal government, and we don't need that middleman.
No.
And like you said, it is unconstitutional. So how do we get rid of it, hypothetically?
Well, I'm not going to go down my conspiracy holes tonight.
Okay, then we could do a simple, a
I'm
simple
not.
answer.
I'm not going to because there's some things that and the reason I'm not is because I can't actually give you guys hardcore proof that you can put your hands on. But from what I've looked at and the research that I've done, I think right now we're running two parallel economies. I think we're
Mm,
running a Federal Reserve economy and
mhm,
a QFS economy. Now, when it comes to the money and all that, I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not as educated in
mhm,
the financial side of things as I wish, because a lot of it's really confusing.
mhm,
Now, you go
mhm.
to the political side of things, it's a whole different story there.
Yeah.
But I believe, I believe that when the corporation went bankrupt, just take it for what it's worth. The Federal Reserve was actually absolved and went into the Treasury. And right now we've got, like I said, there's parallel economies running right now, so that it's not a shock to the American system and the American way of doing life, because they're phasing out the federal. That's why Trump said, if you listen to
Mhm,
Trump, what he said, he's like, no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime,
mhm,
no tax. He wants to have it to where you have no taxes coming out of your paycheck.
mhm.
And they've also talked about, defunding and getting rid of the IRS, because the IRS is unconstitutional as well. The IRS are just the policemen
Mhm.
for the private bank. That's all they are.
Exactly. Exactly. That's crazy.
So I believe that there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. And it's not just here in the United States. You look in
Mhm,
Iraq, Iraq is revaluing their dinar. There's
mhm,
other countries that are breaking away from the fiat central bank system and joining BRICS, because BRICS is backed with gold, silver, precious metals. Our dollar as of today is not
mhm.
backed by anything. Why?
Right.
Why? Because Nixon and it started with Roosevelt, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and then
Mhm.
followed up with Nixon, where they took us off the gold standard.
But why? Do you know the reason why? I've always had that like question. Why, like, why would they do that?
Control to have it centralized. You can't have people running around with pockets full of gold and being worth something, because that doesn't follow the system that they've got set up for everybody. That's why they were having people turn in their gold for money. They didn't want that gold to be held by anybody.
So then, where is the gold?
That's a good question. There's a lot.
Okay.
There's more to that, but I'm not going to talk about that tonight because people already think I've done lost my mind, so I don't care. So,
Okay. Okay.
but,
Well,
that's-
we'll keep that in mind.
but privately, if you want to talk, I'll tell you a little bit more about that.
Okay, okay, because that was going to lead up into my next question of when Trump was president, I remember him or something being said to the effect of he went to the Vatican and he took our gold back. And I don't know too much about that.
All right. Well, I'll just go ahead and say it again. I can't prove it, but from what I hear, and that there's these tunnels that are under the Vatican, miles long tunnels,
Mhm, mhm,
and they store a lot of stuff down there. And one of the
mhm,
things was the gold.
mhm.
And the gold, from what I understand, the gold was taken from the Vatican and brought back to the United States. Like
Okay,
many plane loads. Again,
mhm,
I can't prove it, but
right.
that's what's been said right now.
Okay, so then I'll do more research on that another day, and I'll think more about that because I've just heard it, but like I'm like you, like I can't really prove it or know, like I don't know too much about that. But it makes you think, right? Because it kind of makes you think that maybe we're moving in the right direction of putting us back on the gold standard.
I believe that we are headed that way.
Okay.
And this whole digital currency crap, that's bull crap. That's all new world order bull crap
Mm,
control. There shouldn't be no. I mean, if you look, what pisses me off is like when I look at my bank account,
mhm,
it'll tell me, oh, this deposit was a little lower than normal. or this deposit was a little higher than normal, or it'll show me the percentages of where I'm spending money at the gas station or the
Mhm.
grocery store. Why does my bank have that information? Why?
It's just data, right? Like they're just.
No. It's none of their no. It's none of their business. A bank should not be able to.
I agree.
Because if the government came up and said, "Hey, Mr. Bankman, can you pull up Jimmy Bell's account to see if he's purchased any guns or purchased any ammo?" Because
Yes,
the banks were doing that.
exactly.
So it's none of the government's business at all what I spend my money on.
Yeah, because they sell it, like Jane says in the comments. She says they sell it to other businesses because they sell our data, and I know that's a thing, so that's why I mentioned it. But I agree with you. They should not have any business in what we're doing, what we're buying, or none of that kind of stuff. Because I feel like they're keeping tabs on us, and then when something bad happens, or like they want to like pin it on you, they're gonna say, "Oh yeah, this guy went and bought a gun days before the shooting." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they want to create like a whole psyop or something and make it seem as if they're doing something when they're not doing something. Like what I think what you said before, like the Patriot Act and keeping tabs on people with the
Mhm,
terrorism. They
mhm.
use the terrorism to now put consequences on the rest of us when we had nothing to do with that. So
Exactly.
why are they holding us accountable for something else that somebody else did?
Exactly. And to go back to the conversation you guys were having on the social credit score,
Mm-hmm.
the social credit score, all that
Mm-hmm.
is okay. For example, in China, if you jaywalk, they're
Mm-hmm.
notified and you lose points on your social credit score. And when
Mm-hmm.
you lose points on your social credit score, that either limits and decreases the amount of money that you can spend out of your own daggone account.
Mm-hmm.
So if let's say a social credit score thing came to the United States and someone like me and you, Ruby, have our
Mm-hmm.
YouTube channels, if the government doesn't like what we're saying, then they can
Mm-hmm.
slap us with a social credit violation and then they can freeze our bank accounts.
Yeah, but didn't that happen with the J6ers?
It happened. Well, it happened with the truckers in Canada. I can't say for sure it happened with the J6ers, but it did happen up in Canada. The truckers,
Okay.
the truckers went out and did that big old protest, and the
Mm-hmm.
government shut down their bank accounts.
Okay,
That
then that's the one I was thinking about because I was like, that was crazy.
that's what social credit score is. It's another
Mhm.
evil thing. There's nothing good about it.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's a lot because I feel like we are being oppressed in some way. Like I don't feel like we are free, even though we say all the time this is one of the freest countries on the planet.
No, right
But
now.
I don't.
Now,
Mhm.
right now, what Wild said earlier in one of the comments, he said capitalism was running great until the oligarchy took over,
Yeah.
and,
Okay.
and he's absolutely right. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we send in income tax money and tax money and to the federal government, and
Mm-hmm.
then they turn around and send it to Ukraine, Egypt, Italy,
Mm-hmm.
Syria. Tell me what country out there is sending the United States any money? Zero,
Exactly.
zero. So all of our money,
Mm-hmm.
our taxpayer money, that which was stolen from us,
Mm-hmm.
is being given to other countries. Just the other day, just Monday,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Monday, after Kamala said that the residents of North Carolina would get $750, they came out and said that they were securing $157 million to send to Lebanon.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And I don't know how anybody is okay with that. I don't know how anybody can make an excuse for that, because that money should be
Mm-hmm.
going to the people of East Palestine. It should be going to the people of Maui. It should be going to the people in Western North Carolina. But no, our government, which hates us, gives it
Mm-hmm.
to other countries.
So then, what can we do to stop that from happening?
People better rise up.
That's go ahead,
and, not,
Lucy.
and not in a violent way. Not in a violent
Okay.
way.
Okay, go ahead, Lucy. I see you unmuted yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, you asked a question, so
Hmm.
we can stop voting for the corporate choices is what we can do. That's the first thing we can do.
Yep.
So any candidate who is backed by corporations or backed by super PACs, those people we know will not
Hmm.
follow the ethics that we have stated already
Hmm.
tonight, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
agree with that.
I'll just make
I
one
want,
little statement. Just start real quick. Not all corporations are evil corporations, like with everything else.
Hmm.
So there are some corporations out there that are good, like Goya Foods.
Hmm.
They're a great organization. Home Depot is a great organization
Hmm.
and corporation. So
Hmm.
we got to remember we can't put everybody in the same
Hmm.
category. So go ahead.
well, maybe that's our first debate topic, because I feel very strongly that something that is inherently not human centric is unnecessary for our society. So, like a corporation's main goal is profit.
Hmm.
It is not to benefit the employees. The corporation never has a goal to increase the quality of life of its employees. It is always trying to increase the bottom line of the person at the top. So I don't think that there's anything good about a corporation.
Let me ask you this:
Yeah.
um, who signs your paycheck?
I work for a self-employed person.
Okay, you work for yourself, but for everybody else out there, did anybody ever get a job from a poor person?
No.
That's not the point. You're
No,
doing a whataboutism. You're
no,
changing the subject, Jimmy.
no,
And that's
no,
the
no.
reason why we need rules for these debates, because you do not follow the rules. So
Oh,
you
hold
are
on,
just
Lucy. I didn't know we
subverting
were in a debate tonight,
this.
so calm down.
We,
I'm just
no, you
saying.
can't
I'm
just
just
change the
saying.
subject like that.
People, I'm going. I always have somewhere I'm going with this. You cannot get a job from a poor person. You cannot make $50,000, $100,000 a year from a poor person.
Yeah, if that's your only goal is to make $100,000, but not everybody needs to make $100,000.
Even a daycare worker making $7 and $8 an hour has to have somebody that has more money than them so that they can help pay their bills and give them a salary.
Yeah, that's
Not
true.
all corporations are freaking evil, and you have to have somebody that's got an education that can open a business, make a good business, profit from it, and be able to pay the workers, give them benefits.
You're
So they can get into a position where maybe later on they're just like, you know what? I think I want to open up my own business and hire my own employees. That's
you're
capitalism.
No,
Hmm.
it's not. No, that
It's
is, no, it's
totally
crony
is.
capitalism. It's crony capitalism. No, you don't need a corporation to have a healthy economy and a healthy capitalistic economy. There's nothing wrong with capitalism,
You just said
but
there was.
no, I didn't. I said there is something wrong with the ideology of corporations. In this country, we have given personhood to corporations. That is what is immoral.
I will agree with you, like I said before, that there are some corporations out there that don't give two shits about their workers. I will agree with you on that. But there's other companies out there that don't act that way. And you can't put them all in the same bucket because that's not fair.
Hmm. I agree. I agree with both of you guys. Actually, I'm right smack in the middle. Because I don't trust literally anybody, no corporation, no government, no nobody. I think that it should be all, homegrown, grassroots, your state, your city, those elected officials should be handling the money, giving back to the community. And then there should be made no tax on us. Don't tax our income, don't tax anything, and just let the market decide where this money is going to be going to, allocate it to education, allocate it to people who need it, and etc. But we don't have that, and that's the corporate, it's like corporate fascism that we see in America.
That's exactly right, Ruby. When
Yeah.
when certain corporations, not all of them, when certain corporations team up with the government to push an agenda and shit on the people, that's fascism.
Right, because we don't have a say in any of that.
Exactly.
But the moment we want to take control and you take your kids out of school, you stop vaccinating them, you stop doing everything that the government tells you to do because they want to penalize you for not doing what they want to do.
Exactly.
All of the sudden, the parent is the evil guy. The
Yep.
parent is the conspiracy theorist for being anti-vax. The parents are the bad guys. And sometimes the state will even take your kids away from you using CPS. This is why I want to abolish all three-letter agencies, like quite literally.
Well, like I said, that took place with the Supreme Court decision on the Chevron case, where it took the power away from those three-letter agencies. And a lot of people hadn't looked in that. Most folks don't even know about it. But that power is slowly going away. Folks have got to remember, these people have had decades to put their system in place. It's not something that we're going to be able to fix overnight.
Right.
But the more of us that become aware of this, and then we go about and tell other folks about it, then we're like, holy crap. Then that's when the people will stand up and do something.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to agree with you. Until enough people are hurting in this country, like really hurting, like on the
Right.
street, not able to feed their kids, will they be able to wake up and
And Lucy, and that's why I have always said, it's not until people reach the precipice of destruction until they have the will to change.
yeah, I know.
I mean, you look at these people in North Carolina right now. I have 35 AFLAC agents that I'm friends with in Western North Carolina. I've talked to 17 of them this week. And one of them was telling me that the outpouring of community that is happening there right now is opening the eyes of people who looked at MAGA or the Republicans as vile creatures. She said, Jimmy, she says, we've got all these folks that used to be Democratic, and they're like, no, they're like, screw the government. They see what the government hasn't done for them in North Carolina. And now they're starting to realize, holy crap, there's got to be a better way than this. So
Right.
it's not until people, it's not until you lose access to your money, or you lose communication, or you lose power, electricity. It's not until then. That's why I said, you guys are going to see a scare event. There's going to be several scare events that are going to happen.
Right. But that's why you have to trust yourself. I think more than anything, exactly what we saw with FEMA, not even helping the people in North Carolina, but
Yep.
the regular, neighbors were coming in, even under the threat of arrest. They were still going in and helping people. Like, who does that? Who threatens to arrest you just for trying to help your neighbors, especially in a disaster?
And that's the way the United States used to be, where we would help each other, help our neighbors. And we became so aloof, so complacent, so focused on ourselves with our phones and our computers and just living in our own little bubble. I could probably guarantee you right now that there's probably 80% of people watching this video right now that can't name all their neighbors.
I can't. I'm
And see,
working on it.
but see, this is what I did. I've gone out and I went door to door and introduced myself to my neighbors. I know
Nice.
I know all my neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a dam out here that holds the water to our lake. And the dam was built back in 1812. And there's a big hole that was in it 2 years ago. And the guy that used to live in the place I live at, he built our house.
Mm-hmm.
He got a coalition together, and I helped him go to all of my neighbors and say, "Hey, can y'all come up this Saturday? We're going to be fixing the dam." Do you
Nice.
know? Do you know I had 40 guys show up to help fix our dam?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody got paid. Nobody, we all worked together to do something for the community.
Right. That's what I want.
And these are the stories, like I put in the chat a little while ago, these are
Mm-hmm.
the stories you don't hear about. There's a lot of good in this nation when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to the people. And
Right.
you're not going to see this stuff on the news because it doesn't fit their fear narrative.
Right. That's a good point, Jimmy. But if these organizations that are supposed to be helping people are compromised or they've been infiltrated by some evil source, like I don't even know how to describe it, how do we okay, I'm an abolitionist, right? So in my mind, I go straight to abolish it, get rid of it, and then
Right.
just give it back to the states. But if somebody was more moderate than I am and is thinking, how do we fix it instead of just getting rid of it altogether? How do we fix this?
Well, just my opinion. For
Hmm.
example, the Red Cross. The Red
Right,
Cross is evil as fuck. Sorry.
right. Just an example, right?
This is an example. Go look them up. Go look with the Red Cross. Go look at their history. So
Hmm.
how do you stop them? You quit donating to them.
Right.
Everybody quits giving them money. But because everybody has that mentality, oh, the Red Cross, they're going to go in and do this. And that's a good thing. Oh, yeah, woo-hoo. They're giving coffee and hugs. I'm going to give them my money. Well, you're just aiding and abetting them to keep doing what they've been doing.
Before we go to wild, can you give me one example of what you are indirectly referring to when it comes to the Red Cross? Can you give me just like one little example?
Child trafficking.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna do more research about that. Wild, you can unmute yourself and let us know your thoughts.
Hey, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Boy, Ruby, I'm really glad that you're out of Tampa. You don't know how much better that makes me feel right now after seeing what's going on right now. But I just wanted to weigh in. I've loved the discussion tonight, really have from everybody. It's been really good. A point you made, Ruby, about you no longer feel like we're free. This is what I've been
Mhm.
telling people for a long time. There was a meme come across Facebook. You guys probably seen it. It says 150 years ago, talking about freedom. 150 years ago, you did not have to have a permit to build on your land. You did not have
Mhm.
to have a permit to build a deck. You did not have to have a marriage license through the state. Did you know
Yep.
that? 100,
Yep.
150 years ago, you could get married at your church. You didn't have to have approval from the
Right.
state. So what people don't realize is we every day, and I keep promoting this to everybody. Every day we lose a little more freedom, a little more
Mm-hmm.
freedom. They try to get you to choose between these two parties right now. That's why I'll always refer to myself as an independent. I'll never be Democrat, never be Republican. I make fun of
Mhm.
both of them. Sometimes I say demon rats for Democrats, or I'll say conservatives, or I'm an equal opportunity. Well, whatever you want to call it, just to aggravate them both. I like to tease with all of them, but I will be independent for the simple reason. I was
Mhm.
curious if Jimmy heard what Trump said the other day. I really didn't like it. We've heard that scripture in the Bible about out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. He said something yesterday that really troubled me, but I'm
Mhm.
still going to have to pick him over what Kamala, because she has no plan. She's not told me anything that makes me feel good. But when he
Mhm.
said that about he thought Iran was behind him, the assassination attempts on him, did you hear
Mhm.
what he said? He's like, any president, if I was president and somebody went after another former president, I would blow up that country that come after him, biggest cities, and I'd blow that country to smithereens. I do
Mhm.
not agree with that. You go after
Right.
whoever sent that assassin. You don't blow up them innocent people in them big cities and stuff. So I will have to say I did not like Trump saying that. What's your
Agreed.
Do you agree with that, Jimmy? I mean, I think like some people said they like Trump's policies, but his mouth gets him in trouble sometimes. And
Yeah, I mean, of course, I don't agree with going in and blowing up a whole city for one person.
right,
Um, and if you look at the history of Trump's comments and everything, sometimes he says some shit, and I'm just like, but then I look back and they ask him, about the thing in Ukraine, and he's like, lives are being lost. I want to
Mhm.
stop the killing. So if someone's, and that's what you got to do, you got to be fair and balanced. Yeah, I didn't hear what he said about Iran, so I'm just going to take your word for it. But he
Mhm.
said that, but he also said what he said about the Ukraine and the war in Ukraine, that he wants to stop the killing, wants to see the lives not be lost. So, it's just a counterpoint.
right. Well, that's the only reason I said that I would have to pick Trump right now is because he's a loose cannon. That's what I like about him. They can't control him. The government can't. He can't control his own self and stuff like that. And a lot of people say, well, that's why they don't want him in there. But that's
Mhm.
why I want him in there because he's not going to be a puppet of the government 100%. Now, something else that was said earlier is that a corporation is all about making profits, right? They have to stay in business and they look at the bottom line.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, let's go back with something Ruby said a while ago about vaccines. Do you think that those companies and corporations are going to heal somebody or the vast majority of us when their very livelihood of the corporation stay in business depends on us being sick? If you
Right.
Exactly.
think, yeah, I mean, it just goes against all reason. If you think that the people that benefit the most of us being sick is going to try to heal us, you've got another thought coming. I mean, it's
Yep.
just so wrong. And as I say, I've not had a single vaccine. I'm not going to beat this horse into the ground. But since I was 13, I'm 57 now. I don't ever have to go to the doctor or anything, but I do. Here's what really ticked me off about all this C-19 that we went through all them years ago. Did you notice you didn't hear them promoting good health and change of diet, eating healthy,
Oh no,
exercise?
they didn't do
No,
any of that.
no, what they did promote is there's a pill for every ill, there's a shot for every spot. Come to us, we'll get you covered. And if you was to get the C-19, they know we can't prove it. Here's what they'll say. Well, it would have been so much worse if you wouldn't have took the jab. How can they even say that? We'd have to have somebody that the same exact person that had the shot and didn't have it. They know that that's speaking nonsense and that they can neither prove it and we can neither disprove it. But that's just the way they do it. That's how that corporation runs the pharmaceuticals. And by the way, I'm not anti-doctor. I love doctors. So I had to get a surgery years ago, and that's the only thing I went for. But as far as having to get regular checkups and all that, don't have to. No prescription drugs, none of that. No high blood pressure medicine. But the thing is, anytime you start on that downward slope of the pharmaceutical company, you will have to get another prescription to offset the side effects of the one you
Mhm.
started on. That I mean, they've got this figured out
Hmm.
to fine art. You're
Yeah.
not just going to be with one prescription, mind you. You will start getting others. Oh, I took this prescription for that. Now you're going to need this because you got an irregular heartbeat or it raised your blood pressure, so now we're going to have to lower it. And something else I've noticed with people is the thyroid. You go to the doctor about thyroid, oh, it's elevated now. Then it decreases, and they'll keep you going. It's like a yo up and down. You'll never get it complete right. And
My
like I say,
father, my
Bill,
father-in-law, Wild, he takes 14 different pills a day.
Mm.
He's 78 years old, but he takes 14 different pills every day. One for this, one for that, one for this, one for that. And you're exactly right. They can't run their business with healthy people
no, they go
at all.
under.
So how do we get rid of these corporations?
Mhm.
One way is not participating in, the whole
Right.
go woke, go broke. Look what happened to Bud Light. Look what happened to daggone Bed Bath and Beyond. The people said, no, we're tired of your bull crap, so we're not going to support you.
But I think that's the difference you were making earlier, Jimmy, because exactly what Wild Wall brought up, that's big pharma. And that's the difference because a medicine in my opinion, can't really go quote unquote woke, but they're poisoning you. They're killing you at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, I mean, but like while by him not participating, going and getting that stuff, my wife
Mhm.
just went and had her physical done 3 weeks ago, and
Mhm.
the doctor told her, well, she's going through menopause right now, and the doctor says, well, hey, I can give you this, this, and this to help with the sweats. What they call
Right,
them?
right.
What do they call them? Hot
Hot
flashes.
flashes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can give you this to help with your hot flashes. We can give you this to help with your hormones. You know what my
Mhm.
wife said? She said, no. She says, I've just started taking natural stuff and making my own medicines.
Right.
But
Yes.
there's so many people out there that are just still stuck in the matrix. They would say, yeah, give me all three of them pills.
It's just that they don't know any better. Honestly, they just
Exactly.
don't know any better.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
people themselves ain't bad. It's just that I mean, that, think about it. They're thinking, why would the government do that to us, right? What go back to our watchtower roots. Why did we all
Right.
believe the governing body at one time? I mean,
Yep.
it was like that. Surely they wouldn't lie to us. They wouldn't misrepresent nothing until we first seen that little crack in the dam, right?
Mhm.
Then we start digging deep. That's what happened
Yep.
with me. That's what happened to me. Whether it be government about us losing our rights, whether it be pharmaceuticals about pushing their agenda on medicine, shots, and all that. And that's why, if you notice, I'll question people. It don't matter if they're in the chat or online. I want to know about their health. When did they start getting healthy? You'll notice, or I'll put it me. I notice the less they go to doctor, the healthier they usually get. And the three type of people I watch on YouTube is nutritionists, dietitians, and chiropractors. And you know what? Each of those three will tell you, if we're doing our job, we should be able to keep you away from the medical doctor. And I totally agree
Mhm.
with them. If
Yep.
if they're a good dietitian, a good nutritionist, and a good chiropractor, those three doing their job, and if you listen to them, you should be able to stay away from that medical doctor, except in very, very limited times where you have to go. And that's who I
Right.
follow.
You know, where was Big Pharma before 1912? 1912, 1930?
I
Where
I
was,
knew you were gonna say something like that.
where were they? They
I
didn't
know.
they didn't exist
Right.
until Rockefeller came in and started hijacking the medical system.
Is it always the same guy?
It's
Do all roads lead back to this one Rockefeller
Either him or
Rockefeller.
Rothschild.
Well, no,
and
it's
Rothschild?
No, Rockefeller's the one that went in and hijacked the medical system. He also hijacked the educational system as well.
Yes. Yep. I
So,
just learned about that.
but
Yep.
you got the Rothschilds that were the bank. They're the banking guys.
Right.
Right. Right.
Rockefeller was more of the social guy,
Right.
but they worked together.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. 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 One question. Like you say, how were people living before these institutions, unconstitutional institutions, were being put in place? Right.
Hmm.
And then, like Wild said, before the government got involved in even giving you a license to get married, you got married in a church.
Hmm.
Like there was like traditions that were still held by Americans back in the day. They took care of their families. They grew their own food. They took care of themselves. They were relatively probably healthier than us because all
Hmm.
this technology and poison, and we eat processed foods like
Hmm.
crazy, etc. Why do you think they've moved away from tradition, culture, and our roots, and quite frankly, religion? Because the church would take care of those things. If a family was in need, the church would donate. The church would take care of you. The church would marry you. That kind of stuff. It's like I feel that's the disconnect. We don't have that anymore.
Yeah, because they don't care about us, Ruby. We are not going. How can I put it?
Hmm.
We are not good enough to be in their new world order. Why do you think the Georgia Guidestones said that they wanted to depopulate the population down to 500 million?
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to get at is like I don't think that these people either believe in God or respect a God. I think they're evil and demonic, and they want to
Yeah,
separate us from God and our spirituality. So they're
I agree with
keeping
that.
us from reaching that pineal gland or like that third eye. They're keeping us from reaching that, and they're gonna do it with whatever means necessary. If they have to poison us, if they have to use magnets, or like
Yeah,
whatever they have to use to keep you from doing that yourself and connecting with God.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. There is one, if Gigi or Jesse are in the chat or you guys are watching, please let me know because last time that Gigi came up, he gave a whole speech about this banking system. And I told him, I'm going to make an episode just for you. I hope you joined because I had a bunch of questions for him. And it had to do with like the debt and like the gold with Trump. And I want to move into that subject in a minute. But when you mentioned the Goya and the companies like that, because that's the difference. Big pharma are the type of corporations where like, okay, we know they're poisoning us, we know we have to be careful, yada yada.
Hmm.
But then, like you said, there's other corporations that are good, and then you mentioned Goya, right? There was this reel that I saw on Twitter, and I want to play it for us. It's only about 6 minutes, but it ties in everything together, and it has to do with bananas. And I think you know about this. Uh,
I
so we're
do.
gonna see how bananas
Yeah, this is.
connects to all this stuff.
I think before you play that, just remember Trump has said we are becoming a banana republic.
And I've heard that phrase so many times, and I don't know what that is.
But I think doesn't this guy explain it here?
Oh, a little bit. He mentions it. So I'll
Okay.
play it, and then you can give me your thoughts.
Did you know that Chiquita, the banana company, also smuggles guns and drugs? We're talking about Chiquita, the biggest banana corporation in the world. In 2007, they pled guilty to paying more than $1.7 million to a terrorist organization, and they smuggled 3,000 AK-47s to them and assisted them in smuggling drugs to Europe. But what you might not have known is that the banana industry has been involved in this shit for forever. Chiquita used to be United Fruit Company, and we're about to go from bananas to the entire global economic system and why every nation around the world is enslaved to the bankers and the CIA. Buckle up. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that the CIA wasn't formed until after World War II. But corporations were doing that same job for decades, even a century or two before intelligence agencies were officially formed. We're talking convincing foreign governments to kill their own civilians on behalf of corporate interests back in the early 1900s. Even before World War I, United Fruit helped instate a coup of Honduras, making the first banana republic. And then once the CIA was officially created, one of their first operations was helping United Fruit overthrow the government of Guatemala, their elected president. If you've been following along at all, you already know about how the Dulles brothers were involved here. And at this point, if you don't believe in quote unquote conspiracy theories, you don't understand the global economy. As John Perkins laid out in the Confessions of an Economic Hitman, economic hitmen are highly paid professionals who cheat countries around the globe out of trillions of dollars. They funnel money from the World Bank, the U.S. Agency for International Development, and other foreign aid organizations into the coffers of huge corporations in the pockets of a few wealthy families who control the planet's natural resources. I should know, I was an economic hitman. And yes, they actually call themselves that. On the day in 1971 when I began working with my teacher, Claudine, she informed me, my assignment is to mold you into an economic hitman. My job, she said, was to encourage the world leaders to become part of a vast network that promotes U.S. commercial interests. In the end, those leaders become ensnared in a web of debt that ensures their loyalty. We can draw on them whenever we desire to satisfy our political, economic, or military needs. In turn, they bolster their political position by bringing industrial parks, power plants, and airports to their people. The owners of U.S. engineering and construction companies become fabulously wealthy. If the economic hitmen don't convince the governments of these countries to go along with this plan, then they send in the jackals, which is what you would normally think of as a hitman. And if that doesn't work, then they send in the military. He outlines how this has happened over and over again in more than a dozen countries all around the world. Because what most people don't realize about the CIA and intelligence agencies in general is that they were founded by corporate lawyers. The Dulles brothers, who founded the CIA, were both corporate lawyers at Sullivan and Cromwell. Even Bill Donovan, who was the founder of the OSS, the predecessor of the CIA during World War II, he was also a corporate lawyer. And these people and their agency has always been about international financial relationships first. All the James Bond stuff is mostly just movies and means to achieve the financial and business ends. Like, a lot of people associate these guys with like the 1950s and the end of World War II, but actually they both fought in World War I, and they were instrumental in drafting the Dawes, which was the plan that decided how Germany would get fucked up by war reparations after World War I, and America and German businesses will get deeply tied together by all this debt. That interwar period was not an accident. It was created by legal writings made by legal professionals, lawyers, and the Dawes Plan set up the Bank for International Settlement, whose initial purpose was to oversee the settlement of World War I war reparations. That created a web of international banking connections created by the BIS and the Dulles brothers and their friends on Wall Street and in London and Germany. And then the Bank of International Settlements was instrumental to all of these guys making money off of both sides, funding the Germans during World War II and funding the Allies. In the end, they got his brother John Foster to do it for them. The Bank of International Settlements handled all of the looted Nazi gold that they stole from all the countries they took over. And then, post-World War II, as everyone was deciding what to do with the German economy, and a lot of the more socialist-leaning people in the United States government wanted to completely destroy Germany's ability to be an economic powerhouse, abolishing the Bank of International Settlements was the top of their list. But Alan Dulles and all of his buddies had a very different plan. They wanted to remake Germany into this powerhouse that would be a bulwark against socialism and communism that was up in Russia. And what do you know? Alan Dulles was instrumental in the Bretton Woods agreements that decided what would happen with post-war Germany after World War II. They decided post-World War I and post-World War II, these same brothers. And so these same dudes were instrumental in setting up the Bank of International Settlements and the IMF and the World Bank, which are now the unholy trifecta of the global monetary cabal. And that system is instrumental in everything that John Perkins describes in his book, The Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Intelligence agencies aren't government agencies working for government interests. They never were. They were founded by corporate lawyers that realized that there are certain powers that corporations just don't have. One of which being legally being able to wage war, or legally being able to wage covert war. And through the founding of the CIA and other intelligence agencies around the world, corporations and corporate interests acquired the power to wage covert war. And just a few years later, Guatemala learned all about it, as did Iran, as did Panama, as did Chile, as did Vietnam. I could literally go on for an entire TikTok video. And yes, as a government agency, they are beholden to certain government policies. The CIA has to operate more or less within the structures of government. But that does not mean that the people in control of it and their financial and personal interests are aligned with our government and public interests. They have tricked us all into thinking that they are part of our government military directorate, that they are somehow fighting for the people. That has never been true. The intelligence agencies are a key part of the corporate control of the world, of the banking control of the world. That's why the dude that goes into all the supermarket aisles and talks about mega corporations owning all of our products also relentlessly talks about the CIA, despite it continually shadow banning my channels. Because corporations and covert warfare have been linked at the hip since long before any of us were born. And it's been a long time now that mega corporations and big banking interests have been the ones actually pulling the strings behind just about everything that happens in this world.
Yep.
So that was a lot of information. I think you guys are going to have to go back and rewatch that a couple of times, because I definitely have to rewatch that a couple of times and do research about that. But basically is what we've been talking about, how they have, and I hate when our government uses stuff like this to go ahead and start doing their dirty work and using a company or like a name or some type of vessel, like a tool that they use, and they either launder money or they go into different countries like he mentioned, and they're like economic hitmen. They have literally taken down or unstabilized those governments, right? When he talked about South America. But I'm too young to know these things, and I have not done my research about that. So I wanted to ask you guys.
I give you my thought on that a little bit further. Everything he said legit, 100% true. Everything he
Yeah.
just said, everything was real. But there's one thing that I caught was he said that these corporations had a hard time fighting their covert war or whatever legally. So what did these corporations have to do? They had to hire lawyers. Okay, I'm going somewhere with this. What does a lawyer have to pass to become a lawyer?
The bar exam.
What does bar stand for? Somebody go look it up. Tell us in the chat.
Oh, really?
What does bar stand for? BAR. What does it stand? What does it mean?
The bar exam is an examination administered by the Bar Association of a jurisdiction that a lawyer must pass in order to be admitted to that bar. Okay.
Yeah, but what does bar stand for?
What does bar stand for?
This is huge right here.
Oh my goodness.
I know what it has reference to. A bar is used to separate. You separate the lawyers from the rest of the courtroom.
That's not what I'm looking for.
Okay.
I'm looking for what does bar stand for?
I am trying to Google it and I don't see anything here.
Let's see. Let me go to the chat and see if anybody's found it. Bar means
This is
nothing,
very
right?
interesting.
And I can't. I mean, I can't remember what the third one is.
Okay, I just found it.
Okay.
British Accrediting Registry, the bar exam. British Accrediting Registry.
Okay. The British Accredited Registry, right?
Yep.
So why are American lawyers taking a British Accredited Registry? Why is it something that have to do with Britain? Let's go back to 1871 when we became a corporation. And who did we become beholden to? Great Britain.
Stop.
Dead serious.
I did not know that about.
So all of our lawyers are not practicing constitutional law. All of our lawyers are practicing the British Accredited Registry, the corporation laws. That's why they don't care about the people, because they're not beholden to us.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look into that. Wow, I'm glad I played that video because I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, everybody says, "Oh, well, I passed the bar exam." No one asks, "What does bar stand for? What's the history of the British Accredited Registry?" And another thing he said, corporations have to hire lawyers to protect them and fight a war. What does Watchtower do?
Yo, I swear to God, it's the same exact thing.
Same playbook. They're on the same team.
Right, but it's almost like holding that country hostage, like the way he explained it. It's kind of like if they don't do what they say or they don't go by what the U.S. says, then their government gets demolished.
Well, that's what happened to Gaddafi. Gaddafi was doing a lot of good things for the Libyan people. And just because he didn't want to trade the oil using the fiat dollar, the CIA came in and took him out.
Exactly. Thank you for bringing that up because my husband talks about that man a lot, and I don't know too much about that, but I hear.
Gaddafi was doing a lot of good things for the people of Libya. And because the corporation, the cabal, whatever you want to, because they weren't making any money off of what was happening in Libya and they wanted the control, they went in there and took it over and got rid of him.
But how is that? But how is that okay? That's not okay. Like, why is that allowed? Is there not like international laws or like isn't that what the United Nations is for? Isn't that like so that other countries don't do this? Like, why does America have this boot on the world's neck like that? Like, I don't get it.
Can I answer?
I mean, go ahead, Lucy. Give me your thoughts.
Well, to answer your question, I still want to go back and and answer the previous one, but to answer your question quickly, the US has the ability to use their propaganda to whip up any type of sentiment they want. So during the war against Libya, they made Gaddafi out to be this evil person.
Mm-hmm.
And while, it's probably true that not everybody in his country loved him like a saint, he wasn't a very nice man, but it's impossible he was doing a lot of things, and he was doing things for the benefit of his country.
Mm-hmm.
And like Jimmy said, there were powerful corporations that wanted to profit off of what he was doing and didn't think that he had the right to make those types of decisions. And that's the type of country that we live in. The video that you showed, he mentioned the Dulles brothers a couple of times. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Dulles Airport in New York. That is actually named after one of the Dulles brothers, and the Dulles brothers are
Isn't that
famously.
DC? Isn't that
What's
DC?
that?
The DC airport in Dulles?
Is it DC or is it New York?
It's DC.
Okay, all right. And it makes me laugh to think about, as we learn history, right? As we, as Americans, become more and more aware of history, sometimes people participate in taking monuments down to once thought of great men who. So it just makes me laugh to think that probably in 20 years, once we've dismantled the CIA, we'll probably rename the Dulles Airport as well.
Yeah. So, okay, so let me ask you this, Jimmy. So, Gaddafi wanted to make Africa great again? Fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say. Yeah.
Okay. And just like Lucy said, was that they tried to make him out to look like this monster, right? Meanwhile, he was doing a lot of things that was putting his country first and his people first.
And who is that happening to today?
Yeah, that's where I'm going with it, because they kind of want to make that seem with Trump as well, and the media wants to make it seem like, oh, he's selfish, he only cares about himself, or he's a businessman and he doesn't care about immigrants or whatever. And they go far and they say, oh, he's racist, oh, he's this, he's that. They name call him a lot, and I think that kind of ruins what he's trying to actually do for us, like America and Americans, just like Gaddafi.
Well, the cabal, the black hats, are counting on the red hats, the corporations, because as long as the red hats are getting paid, they'll do whatever the black hats say. And then they're hoping that the yellow hats will just keep their heads buried in the sand and not pay attention to anything. That's what they're hoping for right there. And so if you get rid of the black hats, then the red hats funding stops.
Right. And they'll drift away, right? They'll leave because the money is not coming anymore.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm going to turn up the heat just a little bit more, and I don't want to get too controversial, but is it fair to say that maybe Hitler got that same kind of treatment because he wanted to make Germany great again?
You know what? That was a rabbit hole that I went down, and I watched a documentary. Take it for what it's worth. It was called Europa, The Last Battle.
Okay.
And it gave a whole different narrative than what we were taught. I guess the only thing that I can say is there's never been an interview documented or publicized or anything from a German citizen saying that things were bad in Germany in the 30s.
Interesting.
You won't find it. Because the people of Germany were prospering big time.
Right.
That's all I'll say about that.
Right. Okay. Because I have been going down that rabbit hole, and I have listened to Hitler's speeches in English.
Yeah,
Um,
amazing.
and yeah. But I don't want to dive into that because it might be it. I don't think the channel's ready for that Hitler pill, but we're gonna get there because Candace Owens also talked about it. Like a lot of people are talking about it, and I'm just saying, I'm just learning. I'm getting into that
Yeah, it's.
sphere.
Have you seen Europe of the Last Battle?
I'm gonna get it
I'll
because
send
you
it.
mentioned it.
I'll send it to you. It's on.
Okay, yeah.
Are you on Telegram?
I am not.
Okay.
No.
I might be able to send the video to you. It's on I saved it on my Telegram, but I might
Okay.
be able to send it to you on X.
Okay, yeah, because
It's
that kind of dives into what Lucy was saying. They want to change history. They want to make us believe, certain things when in reality they were doing great things for their people. But the
well,
world narrative was that they're evil monsters.
let's look at what we have going on right now.
Mhm.
Kamala, we all know she's full of crap and not capable of running a freaking country.
Right,
But what's
right.
what's what's the media doing though? They're propping her up as
Hmm.
being this great person.
Right. That's
So
what's so scary.
So
Yeah.
the propaganda works both ways. If somebody's doing really good for the people, let's demonize that person, and
Hmm.
somebody that is not even qualified, let's prop them up because we can control that person.
Right. And they pump the algorithm to make it look like people like her. Like she's getting the
Exactly.
views and she's answering questions the right way. And it's so heavily edited. And when you talk to
Exactly.
people in the street, they don't like her.
No. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'd like
Okay,
to
so
weigh
so
in on that. I'd like to weigh in on that, Ruby, if I may, about
Mhm.
what you said about Hitler. That's something I looked into decades ago because I think I've brought this out before. My father was in World War II, actually on the beach of Normandy, and so was all three of his brothers. And he told me stuff that really got me surprised and shocked because here he is, a backwoods. Way back then, they didn't have internet. We came from a small town, a small community. Today, it wouldn't surprise me what he said with access to internet stuff, but for him to have that knowledge and him being one of the ones that was freeing the people over there in Germany in the concentration camps, and something he told me that will always stick with me. And I'm not going to say it right here because, as you said, but if I told you what my father told me, and he was one of the not just because he's my dad. Everybody that knew him said that they thought he was the Christian, my family, instead of my mom. He never even talked about God one time, but he was always good about everybody. But he said something regarding that will always stick with me. And I will delve into this one day. It might not be on your program, on somebody's, because this needs talked about. And I'll tell you how it works, talking about what Jimmy said about propaganda. If we went back 50 years and you asked anybody, how many genders are there in the United States? What do you think people 50 years ago would answer? What would be the one answer most people would say? How many genders?
two.
Okay. Has that changed today? If you wiki how many genders are, how many do you think it's going to tell you?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you see how things change? When we were part of the Watchtower, what did they tell us the generation was? Did they change what the definition is?
Yes.
Do you see
Yep.
how this works? This
Yep.
is
Yes.
how propaganda works at its utmost. And the allies that won that war, they're the ones that wrote the history books. We can only go on what they tell us, right? But there
Hmm.
was a lot of good people in Germany. Matter of
Right.
fact, I know a guy that became a witness later. He had German roots. He was fighting against his own people. He was born in the United States, but his parents came from Germany. So he said, "You talk about weird having to go and fight for the United States, but against Germany." But as I say, there is a lot of stuff that people would be amazed if you open up your mind and are willing to listen. And don't take
Hmm.
my word for it. Don't take anybody's research.
Hmm.
Right.
Verify. Yeah, verify. And just because you read it in one history book, go look at even older books,
Yep.
not the
Hmm.
new ones. Look at older ones before you develop your conclusion. And something else I'd like to say real quick, I do a lot of work with the off-grid communities, and when y'all
Hmm.
mentioned co-ops a while ago, you would not
Hmm.
believe how nice those co-ops are. forget money. They are swapping goods for other goods, eggs for
Right.
beans and
Mhm.
potatoes, and it still works. Don't let nobody tell you it don't work in today's world. It does. But they want you to be, as Jimmy said, they want the central bank and the Federal Reserve and all that calling all the shots. They want us to be subservient to them and use our debit card and our credit card. But it can still be done. So I do like the term co-ops, and people are still doing it.
One thing I wanted to mention about the World War II situation, go
Mhm.
back and look at what General Patton said after that war was over. General Patton said, I'm paraphrasing, I think we fought the wrong side of this war.
I've heard that before. Yeah,
And
that
then
the
a
bad
week,
guys won.
and
Yeah.
then a week or two later, he died in a car accident.
Yeah, I'm telling you that's why I love Twitter. Twitter is very open and it's not censored as much as it used to be. So this is the very first time that I'm diving into World War II and Hitler stuff. And through the AI translated, his speeches into English, I've been able to hear him in his own voice, to understand what was happening during that time and to not put our ideas of what 2024 tells us in the 1930s and 40s. It's like you have to really go back in time.
Remember in that video that you showed a second ago where it said the Dulles brothers were instrumental pieces in creating what Germany would look like post World War I and post World War II?
Yep.
There's a certain individual that didn't like what they were planning to do to Germany or did to Germany. Hitler.
Right. Okay. Really quickly, I want to give a shout out to this super chat, $5. Thank you to Suchen Liao. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But thank you so much for that super chat. That's awesome that people get to do that. That's super cool. Okay, one more comment because it leads all back to the money, right? We're following the money. And Jane says, do not Jews control most money moving around in the US? And I think she's right.
Again, when people hear the when when people hear the word Jew, what do most people think of?
The average Jew, like the average person, or maybe they also think of the ethnic Jew or the religious Jew.
Normally when you hear the word Jew, most people's brain goes to God's chosen people.
That too. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm noticing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where their brain goes to. However, again, you got to differentiate what they're talking about. We got to go all the way back to the Khazarian Mafia and the Ashkenazi Jews, the fake Jews, the cabal Jews. Yes, those are the people. Those are the Jews that are controlling everything.
Okay.
Not the everyday Jewish person. Not the people.
I kind of knew that, but I didn't know there was actual a word for it, like to differentiate it, like it described. I kind of knew that in the back of my head because a lot of people want to say that just because you bring this up and you say Jews, that you're anti-Semitic when you're trying to give valid, legit information, and that's not who we're talking about. We're talking about the like you said, fake ones.
Let me give you another parallel here.
Okay.
When the CIA goes in and overthrows a country and the people of that country know that that's a puppet government and we want to fight against it, what does the media and the powers to be call those people? Terrorists. In the United States, we're called deplorables. We're called many different names because we go against the government. We don't. So they make up names for not only us here in the United States, but they make up and demonize other people in other countries. So they know, but they also flip that around and say, oh, it's anti-Semitic to say anything about a Jew.
Right.
When they know damn well that it's the Ashkenazi Jews that are doing it. So you can't say nothing about those people. It's anti-Semitic if you talk about what we're doing.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's the same thing, but they use it both ways. They'll
Okay.
demonize people that speak out against governments or puppet governments, but then when we speak out against what they're doing, oh, that's anti-Semitic. That's da da da. No, that's your bitch asses are destroying everything.
Okay. I get that. But then why would they? Okay, if what you said is true about they label you as a terrorist, then how do we make the difference between real terrorism like what we saw in 9/11, despite what we already know about 9/11? I'm just saying as an example, terrorists who hate our country or hate us and they want to commit acts of terror. How do you, like, why would they muddy the waters with that title of terrorists?
You know where you need to start? You
Hmm.
need to start by asking yourself, why did people want to come over here and destroy those buildings? Is there anything the United States might have done over there? If somebody killed somebody in your family, would you like that their particular family?
Right,
So
right,
you have to start asking yourself. And let me tell you this: our government is not a saint, an angel.
right.
It's got its problems too, we all know. I mean, you can go back to the Native Americans here and see what they did to
Hmm.
them, and it just goes even worse the more you read back and see. But I'm not going to get off on that tangent. But you know where I'm going with this. That there's usually a reason. People don't generally want to blow you up just because you're doing better than them. Like right now, Ruby, if you was a multi-millionaire billionaire, I'd be happy for you. I'd be like, yeah, way to go, Ruby. But it would have to take something drastic on your end to make me want to do anything to harm you. Do you see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
We should always start why? What made these people? And it's generally never just because somebody's doing better financially. There's a underlying reason. Going back to what Jimmy said about these so-called Israelite or Jewish people and
Hmm.
stuff, think.
Right.
Go back to the Watchtower. What was the earliest editions of Watchtower called? Zion's
Zions.
Watchtower. That right there
Right.
will tell you a lot to
Hmm.
start digging up a rabbit hole right there. That right there in itself. And then look up Mount Zion
Hmm.
and research Mount Zion. You'll see a whole bunch of stuff that will open your eyes.
Right, but that was the theory that when I was looking at the Hitler situation, when he put the Jews in the camps and stuff like that, he also put Jehovah's Witnesses. And now I'm thinking that that the JWs have Zionist roots, and he probably bunched them in because they were a part of that narrative and agenda, even in the 1930s and 40s.
Nailed it.
But that's mind blowing. Like,
Yeah,
what?
we didn't say the waking up process was going to be easy.
No, my God, that's crazy. Okay. Wait, pause, because back what Wild was talking about, I understand where you're coming from, but what I'm saying is, like, if you use a powerful word like terrorist or racist or misogynist or anti-Semitic, and you're overusing it like the way they do today, it doesn't hold the same weight. And then when a real terrorist comes around, you're like, oh, whatever, because they're trying to bring that word down to, like what Jimmy said, oh, somebody who just goes against the government, they call you a terrorist or they call you this or that. Why are they doing that? It's a serious word. Like, why do they take serious words and boil it down like that?
It's well, simple answer. It's propaganda. It's a mind thing. They use. They want to instill fear. When you hear the word terrorist, the first
Right.
thing your mind goes to fear, and we know that's what they promote. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to. You said something about about why do we have the terrorist and why's okay. So let me look at it this way. If you look at the organizations and the entities that have promoted war, promoted division, promoted hostility between one nation and the next, it all goes back to the same people. So the human spirit, we are not inclined to be going to war with people all the time. We are not inclined to harm others. Now, granted, there are some people out there that belong in mental asylums because they have some issues. And of course, you're going to have your criminals because that's just human nature. But the majority of people, if you got rid of the CIA, Mossad, the cabal, these banking systems worldwide,
Mhm.
you got rid of all of that,
Mhm.
we would not have the terrorism problems we have today. It would not exist,
Mhm.
in my
That's a good
opinion.
point.
In my opinion.
Right, right. Because I think they instigate 99% of the world problems we see
Absolutely
today.
they do.
Yeah. And they profit off of it. They make money when there's wars and stuff like. So they start stuff to all these
They start,
false
yeah.
flag. Yeah. To go
Again,
to war.
it goes back to the jar of ants.
Mhm.
You put black ants in here and red ants in here, and you just leave that sitting there. They're okay, but you shake it up and you pour it
Right.
out. They start fighting one another.
Mm. That's a good point. Okay, I have some starred chats that I want to get to before I go to the regular chat. This same super chatter sent $10. Thank you. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. And then I want to go to Becky's comment. I starred this one because she says the Vatican was behind Germany. That's why there is still a Germany. Just saying. And I don't quite grasp what she's saying there, but I'm gonna dive into that. And I think that the Vatican is also behind a lot of nefarious or like
Oh yeah,
corrupt and like I just don't like I don't like them for some reason. I just like something dark, something evil when it comes to them. It's kind of like what we have, like the CIA, FBI and stuff,
Have you ever
in my
looked at
opinion.
their like inch where the Pope actually sits inside and speaks? Have you looked at the
Mhm.
design of that building, that
I have
auditorium?
not. I have not.
Go check it out and tell me if you don't
Okay.
see a serpent.
Stop. Okay, you see what I'm saying? The symbolism is their downfall, and I believe that phrase.
Absolutely.
I believe that because I think that the Vatican and their ugly evilness, whatever it is, like I can't pinpoint it, but I think it came over in America or whoever's behind these, backdoor deals or I don't know, just bad people. I think they're all in cahoots with
They
one
are.
another.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's like I said, it's the three states. It's the Vatican,
Hmm.
the city of London, and Washington, D.C. They're all tied together and working with each other. They have been for a while.
Mm. I'm gonna have to look into that. My brain is starting to hurt.
Why does your
Yeah,
brain always hurt when I'm on here?
Yeah.
it's just mind blowing a little bit. You know what it is? It's also because deep down inside, I've believed these things. I've just never verbalized it, and I've never heard somebody else say it back to me like that. Because I'm just always reading. I'm always just looking at other people's opinions. But when you actually talk about it, I'm like, damn, I knew it, or like it confirms something in the back of your mind. Like I read something. I don't know where. I don't
Yeah,
know whose opinion it was, but I always knew that there was something there, but there was a barrier that never let me learn that. And then
right.
once that barrier breaks for me, whether it be the education I got or didn't get, like textbooks that are you think that's the truth and you find out that it's not the truth. And then you're going to outside sources, there's a fear, just like how we had with apostasy. Once you got rid of that fear and you're looking at things, I'm thinking, and my brain is hurting.
587 said district. Am I saying talking about the district? Yeah, absolutely. I'm talking about the District of Columbia, Washington D.C. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Jane brought up a
Okay.
real good movie. Ruby, have you ever seen that movie, The Da Vinci Code?
Yes.
Okay, it
Yes.
talked about it had a lot of what we're talking about right now in there about the Vatican and stuff.
And I love those types of movies because it kind of brings you to that imagination part of you. Like not so much conspiracy, but just like it lets you speculate. Like it lets you go down that rabbit hole of like maybe this, maybe that. You know what I mean? Like it brings you there. Hold on. I think there was okay, one more comment came from Jay. He says, "Does Jimmy know anything about how the US extradited the Panamanian president Noriega? He was previously entangled with the CIA?"
I don't know much about that subject, so I can't comment to it. Sorry.
Okay. But that's a good question. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna do research about
I'll have
that.
to go do a little search on that myself.
Yeah, that's going back quite a few years ago. Noriega.
Yeah. You, I just had a thought. We're talking about the
Mhm.
Vatican. What's the
Mhm.
Vatican's roots? Where do they stem from?
I don't know.
Ancient Rome.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Roman Catholics. Yeah.
Okay, so this is why I have a problem with
Mhm.
the Bible, because
Mhm.
Constantine, a Roman emperor,
Yes.
put it all
Okay.
together.
I know I know where you're gonna go, and I
Did he not put it together? He put it together, right?
yes, I understand that, and I've been asking my Orthodox friends because it does entangle with history and conspiracy and all that. I get it. But that's why I appreciate the Orthodox, is because they are no part of that. That was a schism. That was them. That was Rome. Rome
Yeah,
took it to another level.
yeah,
The
Rome did.
Orthodox have never gone there, and they have continued to be unchanged. And that's the only thing that keeps me going to that church, because I'm like,
And,
uh-huh.
and that's why the Khazarians murdered Russian Orthodox after they took
Mm.
over during the Bolshevik Revolution. They were killing Orthodox folks.
Candace Owens also spoke about this. She said they were
Yes,
killing Christians, like
yes,
millions of Christians. And I
yes.
don't know anything about that. So
Yes.
I have so much things to read. Like I have so many, I have to write it down because this is a lot of information.
Ruby, I've been on this stuff for 4.5 years now, and there's still crap that blows my mind. I'm just, just all the, how you feel right now is how I felt a year or two ago when I'm just waking up to all this stuff. And I'm like, holy crap. I had a holy crap moment last night and had to
Mhm.
do a live at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, I gotta watch that. I didn't see it
I
yet.
was, we're talking about these hurricanes and everything. And I had been talking
Yeah.
to John, me and him about having conversations about the modification of them, the
Mhm.
geoengineering and all
Mhm.
this stuff. And then I saw a thing on TikTok that said, hey, look at this 1958 thing by Disney. So I
Mhm.
actually went and found it on YouTube. I'm sitting there watching that. And we were talking about the steering of hurricanes and how people don't believe
Mhm.
that they can do that. But they showed exactly how they wanted to do it or could do it
Mhm.
back in 1958. I was like, you got to be
No,
kidding me.
that's scary. That's what kind of gets me scared, that
Yeah,
we are far behind.
I was like, I knew it. Just like you said, the barrier.
Right.
I
Right.
knew it. Something was up here. Now you go back
Right.
to 1958 and they were talking about it. Are you
Right.
kidding me?
It's like that doubt is confirmed, because I never called it a conspiracy. I just said, oh, I know the government probably does this or this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just kind of make up stuff, and then you're like, oh snap, it's true. Like when you like when you actually confirm it,
I,
it's crazy.
I told John the other day, I was like, me and him, we just have open conversations. We're buddies. We talk about everything. But I
Yeah.
say, John, I said, for once,
Mhm.
I would like to be wrong about some of the crap I talk about. I really would like to be wrong about something that I've spoken about. But so far,
Okay, but even if
nope.
you're not wrong, there are some things that just can't be proven. So maybe you could settle for that.
Oh yeah, and I openly admit I have
Yeah.
many times. I was like, I can't prove this yet, but this
Right.
is how I feel. And usually
Yeah.
those feelings are validated later on. It takes a little time before
Mhm.
before it to happen. It's just I just when you wake up and you can see the patterns and you can
Right.
connect to everything, it's like, yeah, that's bull crap. Yeah, that's bull. Okay, that's legit right there.
Right.
It's just amazing when you drop that mental barrier you talked about.
Mhm.
Too many
Mhm.
people still have a mental barrier on whatever issues it may be. And
Right, and they just believe the narrative that Hitler was a bad guy, therefore he was bad.
and that goes back to I really like the different hats, the red,
Mhm.
yellow, black, because once you can identify the person that you're talking to or who's telling you something, once you can identify what hat they're wearing,
Right.
you automatically know where that conversation is going to go. So now over on X, whenever anybody makes a comment to me that I identify them as being in a yellow hat, I just go ahead and block them right now.
Yeah, remember Shirley in the other chat with 6 screens? I
Yeah.
made that comment. I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is Shirley. She's a yellow hat." And then she got super defensive about the joke because the picture was the man, his head was buried in the sand. That's literally what a yellow hat is.
Yeah. I mean, I tell you what, it's really helped me since I saw that explanation because I can identify somebody very quickly what hat they're wearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Question. JG says, he comments, history is written by the winners.
Correct.
But my question is, what if the winners are the bad guys?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the point he's making too.
Yeah,
is
that's
that
what's happened.
the Allies won, and we're not allowed to question it. We just have to take their narrative about who was the bad guy and what they did.
Yeah, exactly.
Think of this, Ruby. I always thought as a witness that Ray Franz was the huge evil man, the apostate. Fred Franz was his uncle that went on to become the president of society, but Ray was the one that they kicked out or left, however anybody wants to word it, that wrote the book Christ of Conscience. But I thought the whole time I was a witness, man, that guy must be really evil. And then I read that 1975 yearbook put out by the society where everybody in there that mentioned Ray, it was always in the affirmative. He was such a super sweet guy, brother that you would love. And then I started watching YouTube videos that was actually him talking. Nobody ever had nothing bad to say about him. I'm like, well, see, we were lied about him being such a demonized guy and everything. And that's how propaganda works. They can make you dislike somebody just because they label them something, an apostate or whatever it may be, or a terrorist, like you said earlier. Just because we automatically assume, well, they're a terrorist, they're a bad guy, but we shouldn't automatically assume till we have credible evidence ourselves.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going through. It's like I'm trying to deprogram what the public education system tells you how history is. And then I watch people like Candace Owens. And then after she talks about something, how literally everybody else demonizes her because she said something true or says, the truth is not always pretty or like it's not going to offend you. Of course it's going to offend you. She's not there to coddle your feelings. She's an independent journalist and she's telling the truth about certain things, whether it's ugly or pretty. And so I appreciate her because she's the only person I follow that I feel that she tells the truth. And like she actually goes deep and dirty with the nitty-gritty details of what actually happened. And so when she touches on these subjects, it makes me move my position, my opinion, like my preconceived opinion about something. And then I go down that rabbit hole and you have to shift through all these opinions to get to the truth. And the only way you're going to get that is if you actually read a book that the person wrote, like a manifesto, or if you hear the speech of the person who they are demonizing so much. That's why I've been listening to Hitler's speeches and I got all of his manifestos in the library. And I was kind of shocked they had it. I was like, oh, I need to book this right now. And I need to read what he wrote. And that's where you can get the opinion yourself because you read it for yourself.
Did you see where Hitler actually wrote, I think it was like 9 letters to Winston Churchill begging for peace?
Interesting. No, I'm going to have to look that up.
Look it up. Hitler did write letters to Winston Churchill begging for a peaceful outcome.
Interesting. And then 587 put this comment for me. So I started 587 and then I will look this up later. He said to take a look at the Edward Bernays. I have mentioned him a few times. He is the father of propaganda in the 20th century. Sigmund Freud's nephew. Okay, I'm going to have to look that up.
Where's that one? Ruby Queen, when you get a moment. Yeah, Edward Bernays. Yeah, and I think his one of his relatives. I think I I can't remember whether it was a grandson, great grandson, or a nephew, was the CEO of Netflix.
Stop.
Dead serious. Do I tell you any lies, Ruby?
But you see how the web gets bigger and
It does.
bigger, and I'm like, it all leads to the same family, the same people, or the same organization.
And that's what people have to learn. Look at the corruption in DC. Every time something is exposed, it goes back to the same people. And this is where Diddy and Epstein and all them, Richard Branson, that's where all these guys come into play. Because if you're going to have a large web of corruption, you need blackmail on a lot of people.
That's the disgusting part.
That is the disgusting part.
It troubles me. Yeah, it bothers me.
And a lot of people don't want to address it. But I'm telling you right now, you can either go ahead and start learning about it now, or your head is going to explode when it comes out.
Okay. So I don't want to feel like I'm repeating myself, but once again, if the victors write the history and the victor is the bad guys, they're going to rewrite the history, and generations to come are going to believe it. How do we re-educate, or how do we spread that message? Because people try to spread it and they get their careers ruined, they lose their jobs or whatever. They get called anti-Semitic, they get called racist, they get demolished. Like your whole reputation, you get slandered, you get defamed, because the powers that be still exist in those positions.
Let me offer a sobering thought here. That message has been getting out for the last very heavily over the last 8 years. And a lot of people are waking up. A lot of people are understanding that there's more to everything than what we were ever told. And I can prove, and like I said before, this war we're in is an information war. And how do we know that the digital soldiers and citizens are winning this war and winning the narrative and blowing the mainstream media out the water? What did Hillary Clinton say on Monday or Tuesday? Well, what's today? Today's Tuesday. I think she said it Monday. I can't remember. Maybe it's Sunday. But she says, we need to change the things with the social media, or we're going to lose control.
Exactly. I kind of love when they out themselves out like that, because that's exactly, she's right, actually. For once in her life, she's telling the truth.
Because if they can't stop speech, freedom of speech, and they can't do their censorship, she just admitted that they're going to lose control. So she's telling everyone right there who has been in pulling the strings all this time. Who's this we she's referring to? We lose control. And that's how you defeat them. You take their control away. You Department of Education, I mean, look, most of us, I would say 95% of the people watching this show right now are products of public education.
Right.
And we know how horrible it is.
Right.
But we still send our kids, our grandkids, some of us,
right.
We still send them to those schools, even though we know it's bullcrap.
Yeah, so, I can't do it. With a good conscience, I can't let them go to school. I have to do it myself.
Exactly. This is why people have to pull their pants up, get over their feelings, pull kids out of school, and eventually get rid of the Department of Education and return it back to the states and the communities. That's how you defeat that propaganda.
Right. And it's really important to educate yourself first, because I am the teacher. I need to learn this before I can teach it, because I don't want to do what everybody else is doing, just giving misinformation or half truths or things that you can't prove or don't know, and then you teach it as if it is truth. Indoctrination, right? It's like I'm trying my best to. There's a very fine line in education. And that's why I think it's so dangerous that people take advantage of the young mind, that they can imprint, that they can,
Mhm.
download all this information as if it's truth, and it's not. So when I'm researching about Hitler or flat earth, because that's where I'm at right now, those are the two rabbit holes that I'm diving into. I'm trying to learn it in the best way that's like not biased at all, because I want to, in the future, when they're old enough to understand, I want to implement it in my education and at home. I want to teach them the right way about Hitler, about what happened in all these world wars, and how our government is functioning. Like exactly what you're saying. This is like my video diary that I'm gonna play when they're old enough, and I'm gonna be like, look at this. read this read this. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm building the curriculum as I go, because
Mhm.
they're gonna get to that high school age where I'm gonna be like, okay, time to red pill you about everything now, all the
Yeah.
conspiracies and all the stuff. They're too young now, but I'm planting the seeds. I'm teaching them about American politics, about presidents, and they see it for themselves. They even make their own jokes about Kamala and Biden and Trump. Like it's going into humor, but they're learning.
That's what I've done with my granddaughter. My
Mhm.
granddaughter's getting ready to be 12 right now, and she can cite amendments to the Constitution. She
Yeah,
can tell you which ones are which. And she says, Papu, every time I watch TV, there's commercials of that crazy lady on there. God,
yeah.
why won't she just go away? I'm like, give it some time, baby. Give it some time. You're my girl. I mean, I don't have it.
Mhm.
She gave me, I don't have it on me, a little wristband, and a little American flag wristband at 4th of July 5 years ago when she was 7, because
Mhm.
she knows that I love America, and I've taught her to love American values. And so
Right.
she gave me, and I still wear it to this day, because
Mhm.
I know people think I'm crazy. They think I'm a conspiracy. But you know what? I want to do what I can to change this world for my grandkids. I don't want
Right.
them to have to experience the propaganda, the
Right.
manipulation, the debt slavery. I don't want them to live in that world. So
Mhm.
that's why so if anybody speaks out against me, then you're speaking out against somebody that has a good heart, that wants better for not only my grandkids, but everyone else's kids.
Right. We have to promote that more and stop calling it like, demonizing words like, how the other side calls us. It's just education. Like I say in all of my streams, it's educational purposes because I'm learning it as well. And then I'm going to be able to teach it. And I don't want to be teaching lies. I don't want to be teaching psyops as the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's what I said last time, because with all this banking and like subject, it goes in what happened in the Titanic.
Oh yeah.
And and I didn't know that. So I'm watching Leonardo in the movie, right? Where all the romance and the falling in love and this and that,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody's realizing what actually happened on that boat.
Again, it goes back to the money. And we talk about the creation of the Federal Reserve. Go back and read the book, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or the no. Was it the something of Jekyll Island? Oh God, the creature,
Okay.
the creature of Jekyll Island.
Okay. I have a Turtle Twins book on that. It's a
Because what
kid version.
because what had happened is there were guys that were fighting against central bank system. There were
Mm-hmm.
guys that were totally against it,
Mm-hmm.
and they happened to be on the Titanic. And the guys that wanted the Federal Reserve just at the last minute got off the boat.
I have to verify that right
Oh,
there,
it's
what you
true.
just
It's
said.
true. It's
Okay.
100% true.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look into that. But have you heard the theory that the Titanic was not the one that actually sunk? It was the Olympic
Yeah,
or something like that.
yeah. There's proof of that too.
But
Because
what does that mean, though?
because the dude because when the Titanic got messed up the first time on another incident,
Hmm.
they couldn't what was it? He couldn't file it on the insurance. What was the guy's name? Oh, I can't. His name is slipping right now. Um, Jesus, what was his damn name? Can't remember right now. But the
Okay.
insurance that he had wasn't paying out.
Hmm.
So what they no, it was the Olympia. The Olympia got damaged. The insurance didn't pay out on it. So he went ahead, swapped the boats, and took out a new insurance policy right before he swapped the boats. And when the Titanic sank, he collected on the insurance policy, just like the guy that did the Twin Towers thing, where he bought insurance, catastrophic insurance, like a month before it happened. And then he banked in on the insurance after the Twin Towers came down. Same thing.
Okay. Hold on. So they swapped the boats out for insurance purposes.
Correct.
Okay, so that's what it is. The theory is that the other one, the near identical one, sunk, but not the Titanic.
Correct. The Olympia. They sunk the Olympia because it was already damaged.
Okay. Okay. So you're telling me that they made people believe that they were on the Titanic?
Yeah.
Like the tickets sold?
They made people believe that a vaccine was going to work.
Hold up.
They made people believe that Gaddafi was evil. They made people believe we went to the moon.
Okay, because to them it doesn't matter, right?
Correct.
I'm the one who's reaching. I'm the one who's stretching and making a big deal out of it. But to them, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Because who's gonna tell the difference? Not them. They don't know the difference between the boats.
Exactly. It's crazy, man.
That's sick though. Because
we're
how
not
many people
dealing
died though?
They don't care. They
people
start wars that kill millions of people. Do you think they're going to care about 3,000 when they can set off a nuke and kill 100, 200 million?
But that's not okay.
No, it's not okay.
Okay. I know that it kind of dives into the depopulation, right? So they're going to create disasters and create scare events so that a mass amount of people can die at one time.
Yes.
But that's not okay.
No, it's not okay. That's why we do what we do. We're fighting against them.
Can I share something that will tie all this together, what Jimmy's saying about
yes.
We're getting close to the election and what's going on right now happening in Ruby's state of Florida and everything? Ruby, do you see in private chat where I said, if possible, can you share this 2-minute video? I bet Jimmy knows a little bit about this, but let me give y'all a little background if Ruby's able to pull this video up. This guy was a consultant for the Big Bang Theory. He's a renowned physicist. And also, if you've ever heard of string theory, this guy is the one you're going to know about right here. But listen, if she's able to pull this up, listen, this is a 2-minute video. Listen, this was 9 years ago. Listen what he said on the news. And imagine how far they've probably come now that they don't want us to know.
Okay, I'm going to play it now.
Okay.
And now we're learning that.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this.
How to change the weather on purpose. That's right. Lasers now could one day manipulate rain and lightning. CBS's main contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City College of New York. Professor, nice to see you. Extraordinary seeing Al Gore and Bill Clinton there together with Charlie, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
They did not get into this discussion, though, but it is fascinating. I mean, lasers really to change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer.
But this is experimental.
It's experimental. However, in the laboratory so far, it works. When you have water vapor and you have dust particles or ice crystals, you can precipitate rain. It condenses around the seeds. These seeds can also be created by laser beams. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions. And these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning. Judy, go ahead.
Well, this fascinates me in part because, too, I remember reading the stories that China had used this during the Olympics, that the USSR had used this after Chernobyl to create rain clouds. I mean, did those really work then? We have some of these capabilities now?
Inconclusive. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong. Governments have been playing with
Alleged to.
Alleged to, right?
Yeah.
Now, these movements have been alleged to have experimented with weather control, but nothing conclusive. This time we're digging into the laws of physics rather than simply waving our hands and uttering mumbo jumbo. We're actually using trillion-watt lasers now. And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what does it mean for drought areas that need to have rain for crops? And if they don't have them, there's the consequences of famine.
Well, the bad news is if it's a clear blue sky, it's not going to do anything at all because it only takes water vapor that's already in the air and condenses it. However, for floods, for agriculture, farmers, for people planning wedding parties, football games, you name it, outdoor events in agriculture and flooding and even hurricanes, all of them could be subject to weather modification.
Incredibly interesting, Professor Michio Kaku. Thank you.
Did you catch the part about even hurricanes?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what I find funny on that is he kept saying, oh, we're in the experimental phase. But
Mhm.
you go back to the video I did last night showing the video from 1958, they were already talking about lasers and rockets and stuff sending into these clouds. And there was a
Mhm.
point, there was something else that it's funny to me because when you watch that video that I posted last night, how
Mhm.
they were promoting in that video that it was a good thing to do this. It was a good thing because we can help save mankind and have a better future. But when
Mhm.
we speak about it, we're the conspiracy theorist.
Right, that's what I said earlier. Yeah. Mm-mm.
Another little thing, and I'll send you some information on this one.
Mhm.
So people want to think that this messing with the weather is just something new when we
Mhm.
know it goes back, 40s, 50s, and 60s. But did you know that they experimented with weather after the Civil War? Because
What?
what they found out, and I'll send you the information to prove this. What
Mhm.
they found out is they realized that after these battles, these Civil War battles,
Mhm.
after they were over, it always rained. So they sent a team down to Midland, Texas, and what they hypothesized was all those sonic booms and these sound waves and everything like that, and particles and stuff in the air and everything.
Mhm.
They thought that that's what caused it to. So they went down to Midland, Texas, shot off cannons for like 12 hours straight, and the
Mhm.
next day it rained. And they're just saying the sound, the vibrations and the sound. I might do a
Okay.
little, I'll send you the information. I heard
Yes.
about that the other day. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and you should do a video explaining it as well because I love your perspective. But basically, they were experimenting.
Yeah. Back after the Civil War, they were experimenting. Yes. So the thought of controlling the weather, it's not new.
Mhm.
And it's funny when we mention it and people say, oh, that doesn't exist. That's not real. That's not happening.
Mhm.
Open a book. Sorry.
No. You see, I've never denied something like this, and I've told you guys even on X. I said Haleen did not do what it was supposed to do, so they came with a plan B, and plan B was Milton to take us out. Like that was my dark joke, my dark humor joke that they're trying to kill us. Because how does a storm come from the way that it did, the direction that it's in? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just so weird how it's happening. And why is it happening to the South in an
Mm-hmm.
election year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all valid questions.
Like, if we don't have a town to go back to, if I don't have a home to go back to, then how the hell am I gonna vote? Like, I'm gonna be homeless. I'm gonna be on the street with 3 kids. You know what I'm saying? Like that was my anxiety, and it already happened to you guys in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is I don't know what the only thing that I can think that might help, and I don't know if it'll be employed now or I just don't know how they're going to do it. But I got a feeling the military is going to have to get involved in overseeing our elections, whether it be November 5th or whether it be at another time.
But
I'm not talking 4 years down the road.
Right, but isn't the military are the ones who are seeding the clouds or something like that? Aren't those planes being used?
Again, you got to remember there's bad actors there's bad actors everywhere. There's good military and there's bad military.
Okay, Jimmy.
And the reason I can say that, I got proof. Did you see the video where there was a Black Hawk helicopter fly over?
Yes.
Guess what we found out? That was North Carolina National Guard.
Why would they do that?
Exactly. Why would they do that?
No, but seriously, why would they do it? Is that not domestic terrorism?
That's bad actors. I mean, if it's all 100% legit and turns out to be, then there were bad actors in the military doing something that they know would have harmed the people. That's treason. That's crimes against humanity.
So then how do you know who you can trust? It's like you can't even trust anybody.
That's why we have to trust ourselves and believe in ourselves and believe in the ones we're helping. Believe in humanity. I know it's broad to say that, but that's how I live my life. I mean, I'm going to accept you for who you are and what you believe in until you prove me different.
Right. I want to welcome WDH. You are on stage. Is there something that you would like to share? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm nervous.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen your comments in the chat, and it always goes back to that same question. Like, how do we know what's true? How do we know what's false? How do we know what's going on here? But I think deep down inside that we are at war amongst each other, like between people and the government, because this government is not for the people.
Well, I feel like we're at war with ourselves because, like, I don't know, it's always between like good and bad what choice we should make, but we know deep down what is good and what is bad. You know what I'm saying?
I think that would just be a personal I don't think you can say that about everybody because, like, for example, with me, I'm not at war with myself. I know what I know what I believe in. I know what I accept.
Nah, I know. I'm just saying, like, everybody's like at different levels of where they're at in their life. Like I'm the opposite of you. Like, I'm the opposite of you. I keep to myself. I don't really talk to nobody. But I'm not.
Me too.
So it's like I'm here in Florida, and I help put some shutters up. I help my neighbor put his shutters up and stuff. And
good.
Like today, I was just like sleep. I was just like sleeping all day until like 4 o'clock, and then because like to me, like I don't really worry about nothing because I know this is not reality. It goes back to the Matrix. Like this is like the Earth, the world, the planet itself is a time machine, and we no longer go into the future. And this is why we already been to the future. We've been in the future. We lived in the past. We lived through all time. And I know this is a heavy topic, and this is like I don't want to believe this myself. I can't unknow it. I can't unsee it. It's right in front of you. Like, why do we have 12? Why do we have 12 days? I mean, 12 months and 30 days should be 30 days and 12 months. But something happened with the clock that it's 35. It's a mixed function. Like,
no, it should be 13 months and 28 days in each month.
Yeah, that's what I heard. But I also heard that it's supposed to be 12 because 12 times 30 is 360, and that's the 360 cycle around the sun and the moon and the stars. And if you look at the story of Christ, it's written in the stars. It's people talk about the chakras and how we're supposed to be aligned with the earth, but all we're doing is being in line with the simulation. We're much higher than that. We're we're powerful beings. We're not. This is why
Right.
they put fear in us, because they don't want us to trust each other. And trust is a heavy trust goes a long way. Like if you can't trust, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. But if
Like,
we take all of those elements away, which is what we're talking about, right? So you enlighten the masses, you tell them the truth, you tell them,
yeah,
you give them the white pill and you give them the hope that yes, there is a better future. You can connect with that spiritual essence in all of us. Don't you think that we should be more focused on that? Like I understand that's what you
yeah,
believe.
yeah. I
Honestly,
agree with you.
I
I agree
reject
with
it. I only reject that ideology because in the meantime that we are in this physical realm,
I
we should
don't
be
want to
doing
believe.
something about it.
Yeah, yeah. I feel you. But I don't want to believe what I believe either. Sometimes I wish I didn't know what I
No, you could
know.
believe that. You could believe that.
Yeah,
But at the
but
same
sometimes I feel like
time,
it's
don't be
alone.
nihilistic about it that
No,
just
no, no.
nothing
I'm
doesn't
not trying.
matter because everything matters.
No, I know it does matter. I know it does matter. We're learning about what doesn't matter and what matters in this life. What's important and
Mhm.
what's not.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Priority.
Yeah, like we all have families, we all wish the best for each other. And it's like I this is why I can't be afraid. Like I can't be afraid to speak my mind. I can't
Right.
like I need to stop drinking. I need to get my life together. Like I
You
know
do.
too much. I know too much to act foolish. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah. It's
But,
a
I,
it's
but
a it's a
but then
duty.
again, it's like, but I know that I'm also always learning. Like I hear Jimmy, he knows a lot. He's very knowledgeable. He's very aware. Like, and he doesn't take things. He he ascertains the core knowledge for itself. Like he doesn't take things as they are, and that's what we have
Right.
to do. You know what I'm saying? Like
Exactly.
we can't tell. We can't. I can tell you whatever I want. I can tell you what I believe, but I can't.
Mhm.
I can't force that upon you.
Yeah.
You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? You have to understand it yourself. You have to go from within yourself and see if it's true or not. And
Right. Everybody is on that journey right there. That journey. Where is the truth going to lead you? The truth will set you free. I
Yeah,
believe that.
I will agree with him saying that, we are, as a human being, we are more powerful than we realize.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is these powers to be know how powerful we are. They just don't want us to know it.
Yes, that's what the Sky and WDH were talking about in the chat.
I mean, that's exactly what it is. And that's why they fought so hard to dampen our spirits down. That's why they use fear against us. That's why they use the propaganda.
Right. And I do really believe, I don't want to get too religious, but I really do believe it's a spiritual war that
Ruby, it is. It is. It's
yeah.
it, it's
But I
it's
don't
about.
but I
But it doesn't.
yeah.
But you don't have to be religious to say
Right.
we are
Okay.
in a battle between good and evil.
Right, that's what I'm trying to get at because I know not everybody's going to believe in God, but at the end of the day, Christ, in my opinion, is our Lord and Savior. Only He can come and fix this. Like, to be honest, really can't do anything about it. We can only educate, we can only share, we could only bring awareness.
Did
But
didn't Jesus say the kingdom of God was within your heart,
I think so, like within us. Yeah.
within us? Okay,
Yeah.
so if everybody around the world bought into that,
Hmm.
how much better would this world be?
Oh, I believe it would be a paradise, honestly, because
So
everybody
what?
would be.
But
Mhm,
if everybody exercised that, I'm just
mhm,
spitballing here. Okay, take it for what it's
mhm,
worth. And
mhm,
let's say Christ doesn't come back or doesn't make himself known or whatever, but
mhm.
everybody exercises that within themselves. You
Yes.
just admitted the world would be a better place.
I
So
believe
that
so. Hmm.
that would be a Christ consciousness. It,
Yeah.
and that would be kind of ascending. I know this is a little bit deeper, but that's kind of ascending from the 3D matrix
Hmm.
into a 5D better world, a Christ consciousness. We don't.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it. I don't think we need Jesus to come back. We just need people to act like Jesus more. Have that Christ consciousness.
They need to turn to him and stop with this degeneracy and this evilness and this Satanist agenda. They need to
Yeah.
turn to Christ. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if we're so powerful, if the human being is so powerful, why can't we do that ourselves? They probably know we can. And that's why they do what they do. And that's why they do what they do to us.
Okay, so along those lines that we've established that right there, that's what I mean when I say I'm a Christian nationalist right there. I don't mean it in the mainstream way. I don't mean it in the way they try to demonize that phrase or that ideology, but that's what I mean when I say that, because if we had the whole country under, like literally under God, indivisible, with liberty, like I believe in that, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I believe in that God element, and that God is Jesus Christ. It's Christ. It's a Christian God. That's what I mean when I say stuff like that.
You guys know who rules this universe, right?
Okay. And answer it for me, and then I'm gonna dive a little deeper into it, if you don't mind.
Okay, it's Lucifer and Satan.
Okay. I knew you was gonna go there.
Yeah,
Okay,
they're not
okay.
the same entity.
Okay.
People think
So
that Lucifer represents the sun and Satan represents the moon. Bad and evil. It's just all a game to them. Like,
Okay. So that but that also dives into prophecy, because that's what the Bible says, that he would come back and he would rule for 1,000 years, yada yada. He would try to mislead people, and I believe that that's what we're seeing right now, right? But that's what my husband told me too. He's like, the world is lying in the power of the wicked one. That's why we see so much evilness. And I'm like, okay, but at the end of the day, God still owns us, like creation, and he wouldn't let it all go to squander. Like he's not gonna let it all go.
Yeah,
Something has to happen.
But listen, hold on, let me finish. This is important because I'm hearing an echo. But okay, the tree of life has to do with the fruits of the spirit, right? That's already within us. So we have completely free will, right? So we were allowed to enter the tree of knowledge of good and bad, these simulations of death and evil. I mean, death and life, evil and good, truth and lies. Everything is a polarity, right? But the true connection are the fruits of the spirit. This is why you feel joy and happiness when you cling on to them. And this is what truth is, and this is what love is, and this is why heaven is a state of mind and hell is a lower state of mind. But the more you practice these things and you pray, we're learning how to let go of the physical. But this takes many lifetimes. This is even a past life. This is why the Mandela effect works, because of the 360 cycle. It kept on happening and happening, and it created dimensions. You get what I'm saying?
That's another rabbit hole. Yeah.
Yes. And we live in dreams. But people wake up. Each individual soul and spirit wakes up at different times, but all time is the same time, because time is an illusion and only exists with the three dimensions. But when we talk about like life being difficult and it's all corrupted, it's because of greed and power and lust and pride and the physical things that are temporary.
Yeah.
And people, this is why governments fight. it's all over power,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
they don't want you to know this because we are more powerful than you can even imagine. We're loved so unconditionally, like that. We're infinite beings. Our true creators love us so much
Mm-hmm.
that they suffer with us. They're there with us always, even when we didn't realize it.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even like when I was going to the Kingdom Hall, and it was hard for me to go and like
No, no, W, that
I
was really
always felt
great.
I
Mm-hmm.
always felt like Jehovah was like a personal relationship that I
Mm-hmm.
had with him. You know, I always felt like he was with me. But now I know it wasn't Jehovah, it was the true Christ that never left me. You know what I'm saying? So like
Right.
this is why like it's hard to tell people like, you know, you're worshiping a false god. Mostly everybody's worshiping false gods. And that's what it goes to when you really want to break it down to
Mm-hmm.
the beginning. That's what it comes to.
Yeah, it's demonic.
There's no way around it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Pause right there, W, because that was really great. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I would say that there's some points that he brings up that I do agree with, but there's an overwhelming feeling of despair and a attitude of, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but there's nothing we can do to make our world better. It's just going to be the way it is. Am I wrong about that feeling? Because that's the sense I'm getting. Is that what I'm
No, but
getting?
that's true.
Okay, so my question to that would be, is that a defeatist attitude?
No, we have to believe and truly believe that we're more than this, that we're more powerful than this, that we're protected.
Okay, so that's a positive thing. That's a positive thing to believe that. But
not everybody sees it.
It just seems to me I'm getting a vibe off of you, WD, and I don't mean this in any disrespect. It's just, and I have these conversations with my brother because my brother says a lot of the same things that you do. But when I look at my brother, he just seems unhappy.
Yeah.
Are you unhappy?
Well, right now I am because I'm drinking.
So,
but when I'm active and I'm with my brothers, it's like I feel happy just to be around them. I feel happy just to be around family. You know, like like when I'm.
But do you in your mind's eye? And I got 16% on my battery. In your mind's eye, do you see a better future for humanity as it is, as we're living in this world? Do you see a better future for humanity where this evil is done away with?
Good and evil are always going to exist. It's never going.
Okay.
It's an infinite process. We were put into these worlds to choose right or wrong and to learn from them and to take them with us. This is why it says you have treasure stored up in heaven because you have lived here many lifetimes. But the sin that you commit, the sin that you do, it goes away with the flesh. It's burned, like it's.
I get that. I get that. But what I'm trying to
the adversary is to the body. The body is a program. It's a simulation interactive network. It's just, and people have good lives. You know, people have great lives. You know, they get married.
I guess what I'm trying to
kids.
get. I guess what I'm trying to get at, WD, is do you have an optimistic view for our future? Yes or no?
Don't.
Okay.
Okay, in this 3D world.
That's
Okay.
See that? Hold on. I got
Okay, but let me
15% on my
finish.
battery.
Okay,
Hang on
let
a
me
second.
finish. Let me answer the question. As long as we cling on to this world and fight for this world, this 3D world that we're in of the flesh, there's never going to be no future for us because it's always going to be conquer and divide. It's already planned out.
See, I disagree with
You know what
that
I'm saying?
because
Look, check this out. The first division of divide and conquer was the soul, because the soul and spirit are female and male. Okay, so we got put into two different bodies, but we already are connected. So sex was the most desirable fruit for us to reincarnate. Do you get what I'm saying?
I
Because
understand that.
because it's powerful. And that's why the gods made it like that. The
See,
gods of good and confusion, the gods of confusion of good and evil. This is why it says in the Bible, they become like us, knowing good and evil. They knew exactly what they were doing. It was a diabolical trap. God and the devil were in cahoots. They were together. They were a tag team. It was a trap. But then again, it wasn't. You see, I'm trying to expand your mind, bro. It's beyond this. It's beyond. As long as we're here, we're always gonna be at war with each other, and this is why we have to wake up. We're asleep in a coma. It's not real. It's a dream, and it is what it is.
See, that's just where, I mean, I understand where you're trying to come from, but it also goes into some new age stuff that a lot of people cannot resonate. Hold on.
But it's not new age. I have looked into new age, and I've looked into Christian stuff, and the lines have gotten so blurred for me. I was like, what do I believe? But I knew deep down inside that there's a purpose and there's a reason for everything why people believe what they believe.
I agree with that. And there's a purpose. There is a purpose for every one of us to do what we can do while we're here,
right,
with breath in our lungs, to do what we can. So when folks see, like with me, okay, I'm gonna have to make a statement and everything. I got 10% on my battery and it'll go quick. I'm outside. I'm not near my charger.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think the difference that I have, I agree with some of the stuff that you're saying about the spiritual part of it and the matrix and all that. Yeah, I get that and I understand that. But as it is right now, I can't have that not optimistic attitude about a better future for us. Because if I were to take a pessimistic view of the future, then I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to hide in my house. I'm going to be away from everybody. I'm not going to talk to people when I go out in public. If that's what you want to do, if that's what people want to do, fine and dandy, go do that. That's not me. I don't operate that way.
You know what I believe, Drew? That everybody makes it to. We're born back in spirit, and we're no longer trapped in these matter worlds. We can go forward and plant seeds.
Well, until I die and have to deal with that, I'll deal with that when that time comes.
It's not about death. It's not about death. It's not about death. This is why the new age is kind of like on it, but it also misleads you. And it's the same thing with the Bible and Christian and other Christian religions and religions. They're like set you on the path, but then they mislead you because they can mislead you with truth. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
That's
get
what
it.
you believe. That's what you
But
believe.
yeah, but that falls
Yeah.
into the category of nihilism for me, and I just don't
That's
agree with that.
right. That's what I said earlier. It's nihilism, and
But
I reject that ideology.
I gotta get ready to go, guys.
Yes, thank you, Jimmy, for
I've got
joining.
5% left. It's done gone dark on me, but
Yeah.
thank you for having me on. Stay safe.
Yes.
Love all you guys. Have a great night, and we'll talk soon.
Take care,
Okay.
Sam.
Bye, Jimmy.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Later, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm about to end the stream soon because we've hit the 3 hour mark and I'm in my dad's house and it's midnight here. So I can't stream for as long as I want to because I usually go for like 4 hours sometimes. But thank you so much for joining everybody. Gigi and Jesse did not show up tonight, so I'm gonna have to do a part 2 to this subject because I really wanted to dive into the debt and stuff like people say that Trump went further into the debt and things like that. So I have to learn more about that, and I wanted their perspective on it. So we are definitely going to do a part 2 sometime in the near future. I don't know, guys, because by tomorrow, Hurricane Milton will pass through Tampa. And hold on, I think I'm getting some feedback, so I'm gonna take everybody off the stage for now. Just 1 second, guys. Okay. So tomorrow, Hurricane Milton is going to be passing by Tampa at category 5. So I don't even know if I'm gonna have a home to go back to. So depending on what happens after tomorrow, if we have power, if our home is still standing, we will find out. So I want to thank everybody for joining me. I want to thank Lucy, Jimmy, W, Wild. I'm going to have to let everybody go now, but depending on what happens, I don't know, if I'm going to be able to stream, if I'm going to have internet, if I'm going to have power, like I don't know anything. So W, if you're still watching, you meet me on Discord and let me know what are your plans for the hurricane if you're staying in Tampa or what you plan on doing. I'm going to be on Discord in a minute because I'm going to go take a shower, go to bed, and then that's when I do my research. I start reading till like 2 a.m. Okay, John Marciano says, love this show. Thanks again. Yes, thank you for coming. 587 says, interesting view. Everyone is shared. Just goes to show we can all share our views without judgment. Yeah, that's the point, is to understand each other. John Marciano says, good luck, Ruby. God bless. Stay safe. Thank you. Shaq says, I have too much to deal with. What this week has left for me. Try to live in the present and this gift called life. Yeah, exactly. The Sky says, that's a fun name. The Sky says, praying for the best outcome for you and your family. Okay, Ruby. Yeah. 587, you're all on my prayers. Thank you. Good night, Becky. Good night, everybody. Yes, take care. Thanks for hosting. Thank you for coming, Wild. Yeah. If anybody else is on Discord, you could text them as well. Just trying to get everybody's like position. If anybody remembers Bonnie from the other streams, Bonnie Rosa, I think her name is. She is in Clearwater, and I have emailed her back and forth, and she said she is staying in place. She says that she's 80 feet above sea level where she's at, and she lives in a building. So I hope that she's okay. I told her to keep me posted. So I will be checking my email for Bonnie. And I will try to get in touch with her by tomorrow or Thursday at the latest. And right now I'm in West Palm Beach hanging out with my dad. So we are going to stay here for as long as we need to until we go back home. Good night, San Diego. 587 says, Ruby, is your cousin Tony safe? Yeah, Tony is okay. I spoke to her today. Well, she lives in Brooklyn, so she's okay. Location wise, she's fine. But like we told you guys in the other stream, that she is in the final stages of kidney failure. And this is a disease that is hereditary in my family. And so her father has dealt with it, and my uncle, my aunt, all of my family members except my mom and me. But all of my other cousins have it. It's called PKD. And so they were born with that. And so they've had to go on dialysis and get kidney transplants very young in life. So I'm trying to help her with that, because she just found out that that's the reason why she's so exhausted. She feels sick all the time. So if anybody has information or like remedies or homeopathic ways of treatment, let me know, because she's in New York City. So I'm assuming that New York City has enough resources, hopefully, that she can look into other things besides big pharma, because she agrees with what we've talked about on this show about big pharma and how they poison us. So she doesn't want to get on medication, and she doesn't want to do those types of things. So I don't know what she's gonna do. Excuse me. So we just have to see. We have to see what's gonna happen. She might have to do dialysis, might get a transplant. I don't know. But she's only like 32. She's only like 31, 31, 32. So it's super young for her to start having these problems. The Sky says, "Well, I'm sorry to hear." Yeah, thank you, Sky. 587 says, "Look into PM treatments." Okay, I'm gonna star that. Hopefully I remember. Oh yeah, I'll just watch the stream back. What am I talking about? Okay. Okay. Oh, thank you, 587. I'll do that. San Diego says, "I hope I get to meet her when I head up." Yeah, so text her on Discord if you can, because she's in downtown in Brooklyn. Yes, Becky, I will. Miramate is a good website. Okay. I'll look into that. Wild says, triptolide is a traditional Chinese medicine inhibitor of polycystic kidney disease. Okay, yeah, I told her to go to Chinatown. She needs to look into that. Okay. Yeah, sorry guys, I don't know why I'm whispering, but I have a microphone. Okay guys, so I am going to get ready for bed, and I will catch you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining. Bye. And side note, this is the very last time that you will see me without a wig, okay? So don't get used to it, because I feel like gagging looking at myself without a wig. I feel naked, okay? So you could only imagine how I feel right now. You will never again see me in my natural hair, okay? So, all right. And yes, am I... Can you imagine? Oh my god. And I don't know if I sound different, but I lost the puffy thing that goes on the microphone, because I packed all my stuff and I have it in the room, and for some reason I lost the puffy. So my mic, I don't know if it sounds different or weird or loud. I don't know. Yes. This guy says, "I like the no wig." Ugh. Stop it. Shut up. I will never come out here naked like this ever again. Ugh. Okay, guys. I'm gonna stop rambling. Good night, everybody.
I'm a go.